what's up, everybody, and welcome inside Real-Time Fantasy Sports High-Stakes Fantasy Football Draft. Your host, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, along with my right-hand man, Justin Fensterman. Coming up over the course of the next hour and change, we are going to go inside a Real-Time Sports High-Stakes Fantasy Football Draft, a $5,000 entry fee. You can turn $5K into $25K. So that means we got some of the top drafters in the country. What they're doing on the clock tonight should dictate what you do on the clock this big draft weekend. My main man, Justin Fensterman. This was once a dream, Justin, and now it's a reality. Glad to be joining you on this good old Friday night.
Yeah, like Biggie Small said, it was all a dream. No, it's great being with you, CP. It's excellent. And like you said, very high stakes. It doesn't get much more high stakes than this. $5,000. I wish I could hit up some of these drafters for some money right now.
For real, tell me about it. Because you know how it goes, Justin. We got responsibilities. But listen, here you go. This is the rules. So this is a 12-team league, full PPR, 4 points for the quarterback touchdown pass. So you got these 12 teams. Now the starting lineup consists of a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex spot, a kicker, and a defense. And Justin, what you notice, without that third wide receiver or that second flex, sometimes your week-to-week lineup decisions can be difficult, but you can still need to put together the best draft you possibly can.
Absolutely. And for me, when looking at the roster construction, what the roster requirements are, it made me wonder, Corey, despite over the last number of weeks, us seeing wide receivers fly off the board, made me wonder if maybe that pumps the brakes on it a little bit. If you're only starting 2 with 1 flex, makes me wonder if running backs will be prioritized a little bit more.
Some of the storylines we are going to be looking at going into this draft, keep an eye on Cooper Kupp injury situation. Listen, this is the guy, Justin, when he is healthy and right. Last year when he got hurt in PPR leagues, he was averaging 22 fantasy points a game, the same as Justin Jefferson. But you know his injury history is long. We'll see how that plays out. The Jonathan Taylor saga continues to play out. J.K. Dobbins is a guy, a lot of storylines, mainly around injuries. Breece Hall, Devontae Williams. What are you really looking forward to as far as some of the storylines, Justin, as we go into this draft to see how these high-stake fantasy players handle?
So we look at draft boards and average draft positions a lot, but it makes me wonder that if you're entering this league, you've got your set of guys that you're going to go for, even if that means overdrafting these guys. This is a big investment right here. So I'm wondering if we're going to see some names. For instance, here's one, Corey. Jahan Dotson has been flying up draft boards over the last few weeks. We don't know about Terry McLaurin's status heading into week 1, but people are making like McLaurin is out for half the year with how early we're seeing Dotson go now. Normally in these 12-teamers, you're seeing him go really in the 6th round now. So that's something I'm going to be watching. And also something you mentioned, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, we know he's going to be out the 4 weeks, but even if he's traded, still out the 4 weeks. But if he's not traded, man, we don't know if he's going to be able to return once he's able to come off the PUP list if he's not traded. And that makes me wonder if these high-stakes drafters are going to take that risk in drafting Taylor.
No doubt about it. Now, this draft right here at the Real-Time Fantasy Sports, this is a 5K entry. Now, not every draft on the Real-Time lobby is a 5K entry. They got drafts for all for all entry fees, whatever you feel comfortable with. Hop on over there. They're legal in a lot of states. So hop on over there and select the league of your choice. Because, listen, I'm sure a lot of you got your home league drafts coming up this weekend. You and the fellas going to head out to Buffalo Wild Wings to eat some chicken wings and stare at the draft board like it's got blonde hair and blue eyes, looking back at you, Justin.
I thought you were referencing, Corey, the Fantasy Football Expo from 2019 or something like that when you mentioned Buffalo Wild Wings and fantasy football drafting.
But you know what it is. That's where a lot of fantasy football drafts take place.
Right.
You and the homies, the old friends from college, get back together and have a good time this weekend. But don't forget, when you get into the course of the week next week, hop on over to Real-Time Sports and play in one of their leagues. Like I said, this one's 5K. They got another 10K one coming up, Justin. But there is league prizes and league sizes for no matter what your budget is. All right, let's get ready to take our first look at the draft board for the night as we get ready to come to the end of round number 1. And one of the things that we see, Justin, and you don't really see a lot of, but you did allude to this and mention it, we see 4 running backs go back to back to back to back in the first round, and that is a direct result of what you said, those 2 wide receivers and that 1 flex kind of makes running backs a little bit more valuable. And Nick Chubb goes in the first round.
Yeah, we've been seeing that a little bit, him go towards the end of the first round. I was very interested to see where Austin Eckler would end up. It seems like a bunch of analysts are very split on this guy, whether or not he'll be able to have as productive of a year this year, and whether or not do you draft Bijan Robinson before him or not. In this particular draft, we saw Robinson go after Austin Eckler, with McCaffrey being the first running back drafted. But out of these 12 picks here in the first round, man, 6 running backs. And that's why I brought that up, dude, because only 2 wide receivers starting and the 1 flex. If this were 2 wide receivers starting and 2 flexes, you'd see a lot more yellow on this board in the first round.
I agree. You would see a lot more yellow stickers. So basically what you see is some guys have been knocked out the first round as wide receivers that we normally see. And then we see 2 guys at the back of round number 1 and Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard. Now, a lot of people, Justin, are higher on Chubb this year without Kareem Hunt there. They think he's going to be able to catch more passes. And obviously Tony Pollard is now the feature running back in Big D for the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely. And here's the thing with Nick Chubb. I mean, catching passes or not, the volume's going to be there. I'm expecting him to run in about 15 scores this year. I've been all over drafting this guy. I've got multiple shares of him. And I know that in a PPR format, Nick Chubb in the past, people are a little bit down there because of what's going on with his receptions in the past, the reception potential. But you got to throw that out the window. This guy's one of the best runners, a top 3 runner in this league. And because of that, you sometimes have to ignore it. And even in something like fantasy football auctions, Corey, we used to see Nick Chubb even a couple of years ago go for a little bit less, 39-40, as opposed to maybe 50 to 55. So you got that discount. Not anymore. People respect Nick Chubb. People know what he brings to the table, and they're not as worried about the pass catching potential.
When you go to the top of the board, 3 wide receivers who are safe as they could come: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Tyreek Hill. Joe Burrow is going to be ready to go for week 1. He practiced this week. Tyreek Hill, despite all the in and out the lineup that Tua had last year, Hill still was able to put up really career numbers, going for 1,700 yards. So you got the 3 wide receivers at the top, those 4 backs in the middle. Now, I'll be honest with you, Justin. I'm down on Barkley this year, right? Last year, Barkley was great. His rookie year, he was great, but he also had 2 years riddled with injuries and poor performance. Are you comfortable going back to Saquon Barkley in the first round of fantasy drafts this year?
Yes, I am. Yes, I absolutely am. One of my most invested players. We know about the pass catching ability for him. Despite the Giants' offensive line issues that they are going to have, this guy is still going to thrive. Excellent connection that he has with Daniel Jones. And also, let's talk about what else the Giants have besides Darren Waller. Bunch of, I don't want to call them randos, but at the same time, it's not really an established receiving core. And short passing to Saquon Barkley, we saw later in the season, it worked out really well for Daniel Jones. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that was something that was really deadly for their offense. And that's why I have the confidence I do in him. So I've been all over drafting Saquon Barkley this year.
Fenstey dropping a "if it ain't broke, don't fix it." I agree with you, though. Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, it just worked out really well. And part of that, Corey, was because I was looking at props. I was looking at those reception props for Saquon Barkley sitting there at 3.5 receptions. And we saw that number go over a lot. And if Daniel Jones is going to be hurried a lot and the Giants aren't going to give him a lot of protection on the O-line, short passing is going to be his best friend. And that's where Saquon comes in.
Check, baby. 1-2, checking it down to Saquon Barkley. Where are you at, Fenstey, with drafting a tight end in the first round? Travis Kelce, obviously the top tight end in fantasy football. When it's all said and done, is probably going to be the top tight end ever. He's going to get a gold jacket. He's going to Canton. Justin, the last time he did not have at least 70 catches and 1,000 yards receiving was in 2015.
I'm fine with it, man. I'm fine with it. I mean, look, am I going to draft him first overall? Hell no, I'm not going to do that. But once we hit that 5th, 6th area, like where Barkley tends to go, that's where I start to consider Travis Kelce. Corey, I used to be that guy, and I've said this on a few of the shows here on Better Sports Network. I used to be that guy that would try to wait until even the 11th or 12th round, try to get my value elsewhere for that tight end. And I was just so tired of playing tight end roulette. Then I took over a keeper league team. and that team had Travis Kelce. So for the first time, I got to feel what it's like to have the top guy at the tight end. And let me tell you, man, it made me feel a lot more comfortable. So I don't view Travis Kelce as much as a tight end, like, oh, the tight end position. I just view him as a great freaking football player at this point. Like you said, consistent. And with Travis Kelce, with Patrick Mahomes, who's the best in the game, I love Travis Kelce, and I'm totally fine with drafting him in that first round. What about you?
And listen, here's the thing. And I listen, with me, it's really roster construction. But if I'm in a situation and he's there and he's the best player there, and I don't like those wide receivers, right? Because I'm looking at the board right now, and I can see some guys I probably would have pulled up over Kelce, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I have no problem with it. Like you said, okay, so you think the baseball terminology, what's it called? Or roster, not position scarcity, right?
Right.
Now, here's the deal. He still gives you the stats. So you can't slide him in your wide receiver or your running back slot, but he's still going to give you the stats. So really, I have no problem. I think that's a very advanced way to look at it when you talk about it with the tight end position.
Let me ask you this, Corey, if I can interrupt very quickly.
Of course,
so
Justin.
Being that this is an 18-round draft, do you think that Edward, who drafted Travis Kelce here in the first round, I mean, if this were you just drafted Travis Kelce, are you thinking at some point later on you're going to get a second tight end because it is an 18-round draft? Or at this point, you drafted Kelce, you might as well shut every other tight end out of your queue?
If I get two strong wide receivers and I'm looking for that flex, if the best player left is a tight end, then I would go double tight end and I'll throw a tight end in that flex spot right there. That's the way I would do it. As a matter of fact, the best fantasy football team I ever had, I had Travis Kelce, and I have another tight end who was dominant in my flex spot. And, it worked out pretty well, especially when you're racking up those catches and stuff like that. So I have no problem going with two strong tight ends, especially when I could throw one in that flex spot. Now, I do find this interesting. The team that started off with Travis Kelce came back in round 2 and drafted Davante Adams. A Kelce Adams start? Man, listen, Davante Adams, say what you want to say. I know people don't like Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's why he's dropping into the second round this year. But a Davante Adams, Travis Kelce start is phenomenal. Davante Adams had 180 targets last year.
You wouldn't think about it based on at times when he pulled the disappearing act, but that's not all his fault. That's
a lot with Derek Carr, yes.
Right. Exactly. And I'm not as much of a hater on Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, when he was in last year, they were trying to run Jimmy Garoppolo out of town. And thank goodness the 49ers, for their sake, ended up keeping him before he got hurt, of course, because he turned out to be very productive after Trey Lance, of course, got hurt. Then this guy comes back in, and he was actually decently productive there. So I'm not as much of a hater on him, and it doesn't make me downgrade Adams because of it. And when I see, for instance, Garrett Wilson going in that first round, to me, I'm still leaning Davante Adams here over Garrett Wilson.
There you go. I'm still there with you. I think I would go Adams one spot if I'm ranking him. Adams one spot over Williams, to be 100% honest with you. But listen, these guys played $5, $5K to get into this league. Played $5K to get into this league, Justin. So obviously these guys know what they're doing and they're putting their strategies together. You do see, as we come close towards the end of rounds number 2, you do see one team start running back. That's the team that start Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs. Those two running backs could be 1 and 2 in rushing this season.
No, absolutely. And Josh Jacobs, maybe the value pick. It was probably between him and Miles Sanders for the top value in drafts from fantasy football last season. And now that the whole contract situation is behind us at this point, we got to value this guy based on what we saw last year. And it was incredible because it just seemed like about a year ago at this time, people were starting to write this guy off, especially back in the preseason. And now, he played in the Hall of Fame game. They must not be taking him seriously. Zamir White to the moon. And then he came in and did what he did. And you know what? For Thaddeus over here, who drafted the 2 running backs, again, like we talked about, you only need to start the 2 wide receivers. So at this point, he's got himself both of his power backs here, and I don't hate that at all, despite no other team going that direction.
Yeah, if he goes that direction, he's the lone wolf to go that direction. We got 2 teams that start with double wide receivers. You got a team that starts at the 12 slot with Stephon Diggs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I want to touch on team 3 because I know who the player is, Cocktails and Dreams. That's Chad Schroeder. And he takes the risky pick with Cooper Kupp. And, I just said on Better Sports Network this morning that 2-3 turn is where I would start looking at Cooper Kupp. Now, here you got a legendary fantasy football player starting his draft with Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. If Cooper Kupp is healthy, this right here is going to be hard to beat, Justin.
Yeah, but that's big if right there. And
you are right about that.
$5,000 on that. I mean, that is where I wonder how risk averse some of these drafters are going to be. And that goes back to us talking about Jonathan Taylor. We have to have it in our minds, Corey. Jonathan Taylor might not play football this year.
Yeah.
We can't put that out of the realm of possibility. He and Colts management are totally on different wavelengths at this point. And if he's not traded by Halloween, that's going to be problematic. We might not see this guy. Now with Cooper Kupp a little bit banged up at this point, that to me right there, it's interesting. But getting Tyreek Hill, by the way, who I'm sure you've noticed this, Tyreek Hill also slowly moving up in that first round over the last couple of weeks as well. Goes third overall, and you can't hate on it.
No, you can't. So you got a team that starts Diggs and Brown out the 12 hole, and you come back out the 11 hole. The team starts Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb in that Dallas Cowboy offense. Mike McCarthy calling plays this year. And you know what? I'll be honest. I think this is right. I think Tony Pollard is a better fantasy asset for this season than CeeDee Lamb is. I think Pollard is the Cowboys' best offensive player.
No, I love him as well. And again, somebody else where I've been put at the end of the rounds a lot when it comes to my draft position. And I have multiple shares of Tony Pollard this year. And last year, I mean, look, we had to worry about Zeke a little bit too. Zeke was running in those scores despite from what he lacked last year and from the downgrade overall in the talent. We saw Zeke running those scores. Not as much to worry about. I know they've got other guys who have flashed a little bit in preseason, but at the same time, man, I have no issue drafting Tony Pollard at the end of the first round, and I agree with you there.
Some interesting things going on in the draft board right now. I want to go in here and hop in and go live, look at the draft board. We just saw 3 quarterbacks go in a row. Now, I think there's some gamemanships going on. Cocktails and Dreams take Patrick Mahomes. Then we see Josh Allen go as a second quarterback off the board. And now you had 2 teams coming up after Allen. You had a team with Devontae Smith. You had a team with A.J. Brown. One of these 2 teams was going to take Jalen Hurts to get that stack rolling, and the stack is not going to be A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. It's going to be Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts to go at running back Austin Eckler. So a Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith stack is on the board. The Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce stack is not going to happen.
No, but let me ask you, do you go into drafts hoping to have that kind of hookup, or is it more where the players fall, you just happen to draft them? Because for me, I'm more of a look, if the draft board falls that way and I happen to get the quarterback of one of my elite wide receivers, let's just say, that I drafted, so be it. But I don't go into drafts with that intention. However, high stakes right here, and you talk about being able to double down, that's how you do it right there, like that team did, like the Renegade did.
Yeah, so here's the deal. This is how I look at it, Justin. If I'm in a tournament style where, it's a 12-team league and it's a grand overall prize, or if I'm paying $5K to win $25K, you know what? I probably would try to get that stack. You know what I'm saying? That Kelce Mahomes stack, that Hurts or Brown or Smith stack. There's a couple other stacks on the board as well. I don't want to mention them because, the players are still on the board. So, listen, like our good buddy, the King Scott Engel, always says, you cannot predict the draft. And that is the realest thing ever. You cannot predict the draft. You got to stay fluid. You got to stay on your feet, Justin. But if I get a chance to, I'm going to go ahead and get that done.
It makes me interested to see if some of these other teams, the team, that End Zone Club that drafted Josh Allen, I want to see if maybe he tries to get a Bills wide receiver to double down a bit as well a little bit later on in the draft. So that's something I'm going to be watching out for now.
All right, going back to the draft board, we can look at some more teams. The team that starts with Garrett Wilson comes back in the second round and takes Derrick Henry. So you got the young jet wide receiver followed by King Henry. A lot of carries over the past couple years for Derrick Henry, but you know what? It seems like I'm going to keep on rolling.
No, I hear you there, and I'm actually someone that's also drafting Derrick Henry as well. I mean, we've been saying this for years. When are the wheels going to fall off? And we know he got hurt a couple of years ago. That doesn't matter to me, man. It's football. players are going to get hurt, full contact sport. When you go into these drafts expecting that you're going to probably lose a player or two, a key player or two on your team, it makes you less when it comes to the risk factor. It makes you want to go after those guys who have that talent. Derrick Henry, definitely one of those guys, and they're still going to run the hell out of him this year.
Stack box, no quarterback, depleted wide receiver, roster not that good, don't make a difference. King Henry still gets the board. Coming up, the team that started off with Travis Kelce and Devontae Adams adds Miles Sanders in round number 3. Now, this is where we get interesting, Justin. A league with a $5K entry fee, Miles Sanders goes into the 3rd round. Should people drafting over the weekend pay attention and take a look at this team right here? Are we missing something with Miles Sanders?
I mean, Miles Sanders, from what we've seen, and I know a video came out, and I almost wish this video didn't come out because then everybody flocks to it. Miles Sanders can catch passes. Deuce Staley knows that. And that's the big thing here. And you saw in that meeting in the video that came out about, a month and a half ago, they said that they're going to throw him the football. And now everybody is all of a sudden fully confident that he's going to. Now, he had the groin injury, and everything seems fine now. But when it comes to Miles Sanders, I'm wondering if, you see players that haven't been taken, like Aaron Jones just yet. It makes me wonder if I would have gone with maybe an Aaron Jones over Miles Sanders. I'm in on Miles Sanders, but for me, and I know running backs have been going a little bit more aggressively here, I would have probably waited another round or 2 to get him.
Yeah, probably would have been the case as well for myself. Saquon Barkley, Chris Olave, Joe Mixon is the team drafting out of the 7 hole. Nothing really to talk about too much there. I love Chris Olave, a good young wide receiver. Then we got a team with Bijan Robinson, Travis Etienne, and A.J. Brown. Love Robinson coming up this season, rookie running back. I think next year this time, we're talking about Bijan Robinson as pick 1-1 consensus in fantasy drafts. Where are you at on the Falcons rookie running back?
I mean, I love him. How can you not love him? All the tape you watch on him, not only explosive on the ground and goes to a team that ran the ball more than any other team last year in the Falcons, but he's also very active, and he's going to be very active in the passing attack as well. And that's something that's going to be huge for Bijan Robinson. So I love Bijan Robinson as well. But I want to ask you about Travis Etienne. I've been out on Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
I just haven't drafted him. And part of the reason, there are 2 reasons there. Number 1, there are a lot of pass-catching weapons in Jacksonville. Number 2, I really do wonder if Tank Bigsby is going to be vulturing a lot of those goal line scores, and that's going to drop the production potential down for Travis Etienne. Maybe them drafting Tank Bigsby allows Etienne to be used a little bit more exclusively, not fully, but a little bit more in the passing attack. So we know he can catch passes. But Corey, I worry about this guy, and especially him getting vultured, and also in a very crowded offense.
Listen, and I think you have good reasons to worry about that as well. Touchdown production was not there last year. He's a very good young running back. But, Justin, he kind of reminds me of one of these players that's better for the Jacksonville Jaguars than he is for your fantasy team. And we do see situations where that happens. So, listen, I don't have Etienne on any team so far this season. I don't think he's a bad player, but I want to see, a little bit more touchdown production before I pay his draft price. Continuing to move along the board, Austin Eckler, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts. We talked about that team a little bit earlier. Then we got Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Waddle, Josh Allen. Where you at on Josh Allen, Fensty?
So I don't have any Josh Allen, but I don't hate on Josh Allen at all. I love Stephon Diggs so much. Who's going to be throwing Stephon Diggs the ball? It's going to be Josh Allen. I just haven't been in the position to draft him at that point. I got Mahomes in one place so far, but really I haven't been able to get any of the 3 quarterbacks that we saw go off the board first. And with Josh Allen, I'm fine with him. I'm open to him, but I'm more of a Mahomes guy over Allen between the 2. So I think that what Cocktails and Dreams did is something I would have done as well.
Like the way Cocktails and Dreams team is shaking up early on and then early going. Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp. If Cooper Kupp hits, that could be a slam dunk. And then he comes back and he gets Patrick Mahomes. Justin, how are you attacking quarterbacks this year? I know a lot of time in the expert community, well, if you want to call us experts, whatever, people that talk about it for a living will play what I like to call quarterback chicken, right? and wait to the later rounds to get a quarterback. I've noticed this year I'm pulling the trigger on that quarterback a little bit earlier than I have in the years in the past. How are you feeling the same way? Are you more apt to take a quarterback in the early rounds than years past?
I am. I used to be the guy that drafted Matt Ryan every single year. That used to be me.
Round 11.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? It was great value. Now, what I'm seeing in my draft so far, I'm getting a lot of Justin Herbert. Joe Burrow is one of my favorite players in football, so I've been getting him a decent amount as well. And Trevor Lawrence, probably of all the quarterbacks, those are the three that I have the most shares of. So, Corey, I have adjusted my strategy over the years instead of playing QB chicken, and I've started going after some of the bigger guns.
See, 4 quarterbacks go in round 3 of this real-time fantasy sports high-stakes draft. $5,000 entry fee. League winner taking home $25K. This is not the only price point in the real-time fantasy sports lobby. You can get in at a price point wherever you feel comfortable and throw an extra couple teams out there and have a good time drafting and a good season. Now, Ramondre Stevenson and Calvin Ridley, first 2 picks of round number 3. We are in round number 4 right now. Before we get to round number 4, and I do want to point something out on the board where a stack did not take place. But how do you feel about Calvin Ridley coming into the season? Team 1 to Lake takes Calvin Ridley in round number 3. Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Najee Harris. Love Jefferson and Ridley. Harris, I think, is intriguing. I think Pittsburgh's going to be better this year, but I think Kenny Pickett's going to be throwing the ball more this year. Where are you at on those 2 players, Harris and Ridley?
I'm totally fine with Harris. I know that there have been conflicting reports that come out regarding Jaylen Warren and whether or not, I mean, there was one I saw, one reporter wrote something, and it definitely would, I call a popcorn headline, trying to get those clicks right there, that by the end of the year, this guy is going to be essentially the prioritized running back. I don't believe that. I think it's going to be Najee Harris. I think you're going to be seeing Najee Harris catch some passes as well. Totally fine with him. Calvin Ridley, I love the talent. I know we haven't seen him in a year, but are we just going to just brush Christian Kirk off to the side? With everything I was just talking about with Travis Etienne, guys like Calvin Ridley and even Kirk and Evan Engram are going to be facing the same issues of a lot of weapons for Lawrence to pass to. And it makes me a little bit concerned. And in the 3rd round, I probably wouldn't have gone that direction, but I can't deny the talent in Calvin Ridley.
Now we are into round number 4, Justin, and I want to point this out. The team that started Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews had an opportunity to get the Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack and passed on it and took a second wide receiver in Keenan Allen. Justin, I would have went for that Jackson Andrews stack.
So because of this, the nature of this league, I'm more open to it. I know a lot of people are higher on Lamar Jackson. I've gotten a little bit more open to drafting him. I just wonder, and then look, I know we saw the accuracy with Jalen Hurts improve immediately when they got A.J. Brown. And you're talking about that percentage going up when it came to his completion percentage by about 8% or so. I just wonder, I mean, the Ravens are still going to be a run-heavy team. I know that with Monken, they're going to be throwing a little bit more. But it does make me worry a little bit still about Lamar Jackson and not even taking the health into consideration. For this particular draft, I would be more inclined to draft Lamar Jackson. But Corey, where do you stand on Lamar Jackson for you? Where would he have to be falling? What quarterbacks would have to be off the board for you to take Lamar Jackson? Because I've got a little bit of cold feet, man.
I love Lamar Jackson going into this year in Todd Monken's offense. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be an MVP candidate again this season. I would have took that Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack in that spot right there. I might have done it a round or 2 earlier. Like I would have took Lamar Jackson before Justin Herbert. I would take Lamar Jackson before Josh Allen as well. I think we have back-to-back seasons of Jackson. Number 1, being injured. Number 2, that offense that they was running the past couple of years had gotten stale. And I think they had gotten the book on Lamar Jackson and that offense. Now I think you add some more electricity to that offense. I'm curious to see what Jackson's going to do this year. I am in on Lamar Jackson. That's where I'm at. After Lamar Jackson goes, then Justin Fields goes off the board. Justin Fields, you know how we talked about Etienne being good for Jacksonville, but bad for fantasy?
Right.
Justin Fields could be good for fantasy and bad for the Bears.
Yes, I agree with that here. We'll have to see if maybe DJ Moore is able to improve his accuracy, make him be a little bit more aggressive. But look, We talk about guys like Khalil Herbert, for instance, and how he just keeps falling a little bit in drafts and keeps getting passed on here. And part of that, Corey, is the fear because Justin Fields is going to be running a lot still. That's not going to change. So with Justin Fields, you know what he has there. He's got that Jalen Hurts style when it comes to the running. That's not going to change so much, but having someone like a DJ Moore certainly helps when trying to pad up that receiving core.
Listen, when you get into a league with a $5K entry fee in the Real-Time Fantasy Sports High Stakes Leagues, you throw ADP out the window.
Yep.
We have already, not even through 4 rounds, seen Miles Sanders and James Cook go off the board. James Cook is one of those people, that they rise, their value goes up, up, up. We got another stack, y'all. Their value goes up, 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 up. James Cook is that guy. Justin, I'm buying into James Cook.
I feel like people were kind of just passing him over and not giving him much consideration. And we're seeing him go in about the 7th or 8th round, probably the 7th round I've been seeing the most. But now all of a sudden, over the last couple of weeks, he's gained some steam because I think fantasy players realize, oh, yeah, he's the guy now there in Buffalo. So you're starting to see him fly up draft boards a little bit more, and I'm totally fine with that, Corey. I got to ask you a question, though. Somebody else that I'm out on, someone that I'm very worried about, who went at the beginning of the 4th round, Deebo Samuel, man. I just think his production potential is capped. They've got multiple running backs in San Francisco that could also both catch passes, and they've got a good amount of pass-catching weapons as well. I just don't think Deebo Samuel has as high of a ceiling as we've seen in the past.
And I agree. Better for the 49ers than for your fantasy team. But as a wide receiver 3, Justin, I think it's worth it.
Yes, and that's what Trent got him at there. Who's on
don't
the
have no running
right
backs
now.
though. You know what I'm saying?
No running back,
I
and
know.
that's interesting, Corey. And this is where I think Trent made a little bit of a mistake, unless he's a full-on 0 running back guy. Which, look, Corey, I was just having a conversation with one of my other friends. I don't go into a draft immediately saying I'm going 0 running back. I actually think that's kind of stupid. And I know that people are going to be like, well, that's how you get the overall value. It's full PPR. I understand that. But at the same time, look at how many running backs have gone off the board. And I know the whole cliche, the zagging when everybody's zigging or whatever, but this guy should have gotten at least 1 running back because they are flying in this draft.
No doubt. We did see that other stack develop. It is the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack. The team is Jamar Chase, Christian Watson as the wide receivers, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ramondre Stevenson as the running back. The stack is complete with Joe Burrow. The Burrow-Chase stack might be the most attractive stack going into the season this year.
Yeah, and if I was Dylan, who was picking at 9th, or rather 10th, 9th, I would have probably tried to stack T. Higgins and Joe Burrow at this point.
I would have tried that too.
There are plenty of targets to go around for both of these guys. This guy's a 1,000-yard receiving weapon, and you're going to see him get into the end zone a good amount too. He's going to get a bunch of targets. Just because Jamar Chase isn't there, we shouldn't be turned off by T. Higgins. And I know, and trust me, I really like Darren Waller on this Giants team. But at the same time, I would have gone Burrow there and tried to stack them together.
All right, some of the recent picks after Jackson, Fields, and Cook. We see DeAndre Hopkins go off the board, followed by Aaron Jones. We mentioned Joe Burrow, Amari Cooper. Round 5 starts with Alexander Madison going off the board, followed by Christian Watson, DJ Moore, and then Terry McLaurin. We are through 5.5 rounds of this Real-Time Sports high-stakes fantasy football draft. You want to get ready for your draft? You need to watch these guys in action, and we'll get you some more action when we come back and break down the rest of this draft. We're through 5 rounds right here on the Better Sports Network.
Better Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing shot to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Bartlett picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right out, 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the impounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up at him. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the eye
I formation on first down. Peterson the carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the bank, and you're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer! Pitched by Downing, swinging, there's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Better Sports Network.
On the clock on a Friday night, real-time fantasy sports, high-stakes fantasy football draft. These dudes paid $5,000 to be in this league. You need to be paying attention. But in the real-time fantasy sports lobby, whatever your price point is, you can be satisfied there. If you want to get down with this, I got a first-time depositors bonus. You can get 100% instant match up to $200 with a deposit. Use code ALARM23 or BSN23. That is the RT Sports Fantasy Championship. Fantasy exec Corey Parson, my main man Justin Fensterman, on a good old Friday night, getting you ready. After we left, latest picks to go off the board. J.K. Dobbins, Drake London, Javonte Williams, James Conner, and Isaiah Pacheco. And you know what, Justin? Let's discuss the running backs in this round. Let's start with Alexander Madison. He was like everybody's favorite backup running back. I remember a couple years ago, I traded Alexander Madison to the Dalvin Cook owner for CD Lamb.
Wow.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but now that Madison got the job, I thought that, what is it that the community doesn't like about Alexander
I've been trying
Madison?
to figure that out, man, because I've been in on him. I think the value's been fair, especially in this draft as well. Minnesota's offensive line, I mean, they've never really given any indication that they don't trust in this guy. We know that Kirk Cousins is going to throw, but Madison's still going to get the volume there. I know that people are a little excited later on regarding Ty Chandler, but to me, Corey, I have no problem drafting Alexander Madison as my RB2 like 5KHS did here, who was at first pick, or even as my third running back, especially that third running back, man. I have no problem taking a shot on him.
Next running back to go off the board might be one of the most controversial players in fantasy football this year. It is Baltimore Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins. He can be a league winner, and he can be a league loser.
That's a big problem. Another guy on a team with a great offensive line has had health issues the last few years. Hopefully he can stay clear of that. It makes me wonder when it comes to running the football if the Ravens are going to use multiple players. We know Jackson's going to. We know he is. Wonder if Gus the Bus Edwards is as well. So, Corey, at this point with J.K. Dobbins, Obviously, when he was going through his holding, was pretty out on him, but now things seem to be figured out there. So going in round 5 compared to where some of these other running backs went, that's, again, you throw ADP out the window. And what Renegade did was draft him as his third running back, hedging a little bit to start here. And it makes me wonder if Renegade is going to go after another running back here in the next round or two.
And there you go right there. Next guy off the board, another controversial running back injuries, Javonte Williams. I was all about Javonte Williams last year. It didn't work out. I don't have him nowhere this year. I think the Broncos are not going to be a good team this year. I don't know what their game script's going to be like. I think Williams is super duper talented, but I don't know, Justin. I'm very uncomfortable putting him on my fantasy team. And the team he is on, already has Saquon Barkley and Joe Mixon to go along with Chris Olave and Lamar Jackson.
Let me ask you this, Corey, and maybe it's jumping the gun here, jumping the shark. Do you think that John here, who drafted Javonte Williams, should he pull the trigger on Pirine, man? Should he just do it right now with how aggressive we've seen running backs go in this draft?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean,
you know
I
what
know
I'm saying?
it's weird
and
to
I
say.
think something, Justin. I like Pirine. I think Pirine is a very good back. You know what I'm saying? He was a plug and play guy for me last year when Joe Mixon got injured. Pirine can be a starting running back in this league. He has the talent. He just seems to get caught behind people. But if Pirine has a better fantasy year than Williams, or would you be all that surprised?
I only think he will if Williams gets hurt again. If that does not happen, if Williams, let's just say, misses only a couple of games, and that's it. I don't see that happening. I still think Javonte Williams is the guy. I have a share of him. But at the same time, Corey, again, when John's on the board with how we've seen running backs go in this particular draft, and I know he's got a couple already, I'm just wondering if he's a little bit paranoid that Pirine is going to be taken before it gets back to him in the 7th round. I know he's about to be on the clock, and that's something that I am going to be laser focused on when he's up in the next pick here.
Lasers coming out the eyes of Justin Fensterman on a Friday night. It's your anniversary.
10 years, man, and I haven't been kicked out of the house yet.
How about that? Good job, Justin. You did way better than me. After Javonte Williams, James Conner and Isaiah Pacheco go off the board. I can get with Isaiah Pacheco. What am I going to do with James
you
Conner?
would think that with everything going on in Arizona, I've been staying away from all Cardinals. And this is about to be the 2nd straight year that I stay away from all Cardinals. Will we see Kyler Murray this year? We don't know if we'll see Kyler Murray this year. Are they going to stack the box against Connor a lot, majority of the game? Heck yes, defenses will. So I'm a little bit worried about James Conner, and I don't have him anywhere. If it's one of those situations, Corey, that if he starts to fall, and I got a bunch of other running backs, then I'll take him. But I'm not prioritizing James Conner.
Yeah, all right, bet. So Isaiah Pacheco.
I'm fine with Isaiah Pacheco. I have no issue with him. I liked what I saw last year. I'm not threatened by any of the other running backs that Kansas City has. So with him, I'm totally fine with that. Although I'll say this, with Dylan as the 2nd running back, I'd much rather have him as my 3rd or even my 4th. But again, we're seeing the aggressiveness with the position. So you got to start taking these guys. And at the end of the day, where he got him in round 5 compared to where some of these other backs have gone, I'm more lukewarm on him, but I'm fine with drafting him, unlike James Conner.
Shoot those lasers back out your eyes, and let's look at Dylan Goldberg's team a little bit deeper. His team name is G Money 23. Is this Draymond Green?
Is it? Does he play fantasy football?
Maybe it is Draymond Green. For this purpose, it's Draymond Green. Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, and Mike Evans, the wide receiver crew. Darren Waller at tight end. Derrick Henry and Isaiah Pacheco at running back.
I think it's okay. I love the T. Higgins pick. Darren Waller, I love. And because, I love him so much, but I'm starting to see him get prioritized a little bit more, especially early in that 4th round. And with that, I haven't been able to get him anywhere. Every time I'm getting ready, I have him up there in my queue. He gets sniped about 4 or 5 picks before every single draft. Mike Evans, I know that there's a little bit of a contract situation, but from what I was reading on it, it's more about the future beyond this year. So I don't think there's going to be any kind of holdout situation if he can't get a new deal from Tampa. So for me, Corey, I'm very worried about Tampa's offense. They don't have any they don't have any protection for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield cannot get the ball out nearly as quickly as Tom Brady. He is going to be rushed the entire game. He's going to be on his feet, on the ground. And I'm worried about guys like Godwin and Evans. And really, if I'm more accepting of one of them, and I know both of their skill set, I'd rather maybe save that draft capital and go Evans. But I've been really shying away of drafting these receivers. I have been drafting Rachaad White a little bit because he had been going a little bit later on. But outside of that, man, I've been staying away from Tampa.
You mentioned Rachaad White. There's a trio of running backs that go off the board to close round 5 and open up round 6. David Montgomery, Breece Hall goes, and Rachaad White. Let's start with Breece Hall. He's the first Jet running back off the board.
And with that,
and rightfully so.
But here's the thing, and remember, Breece Hall coming off a pretty major injury. We know how great of a talent he is, but he's a young guy, and the Jets are going to be heavily invested in him. The Jets are going to bring him on slowly. That's why they brought in Dalvin Cook. So if you draft Breece Hall, by hopefully mid-season or even the end, we're seeing what we saw last year. But don't get so frustrated after the first few weeks, because you're hearing it right now and you've been warned that after the first few weeks, if he's not giving you what you're expecting to get from the production standpoint, this is what you're investing in, because the Jets and these teams, Corey, and we've worked in this business for a long time, they don't care about fantasy. They don't care about the individual stats. For the Jets, they've got such a small window to do damage, make the playoffs, maybe go on some kind of playoff run, and they're going to need Breece Hall to do it. So don't be surprised if you see this guy's carries get capped for the first quarter of the season at least.
Are you optimistic as a Jet fan on the development of Zach Wilson?
No, not really. I'm hoping that Aaron Rodgers can teach him a few things. I'm not fully out on Zach Wilson, but at the same time, if Aaron Rodgers, after we got to think 2 years, he's gone, and then we see Zach Wilson, it's going to be a very short leash. Zach Wilson is still very, very young, and I know that we saw a lot of those off-balance throws, and I was just shaking my head as someone who has rooted for this Jets team as miserable as it's been for the last decade plus. So when it comes to Zach Wilson, I'm not totally out. I want to see if Aaron Rodgers can make that impact and really teach him. But, Corey, I got to tell you this, man. I'm not one of those Jets fans, those naive Jets fans that say, oh, my God, Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl. This team has the longest playoff drought of any NFL team. Let's just see them make the playoffs.
I think they're going to win the AFC.
Wow, okay. So you're a little bit more optimistic than I am. Look, they have the defense to do so. Now we got to see.
I would put something on Quinnen Williams to be defensive player.
Yes, that I would do, and I'm so glad that they figured out the money situation with him as well. They needed him back. But still, Corey, the Jets don't have a strong offensive line, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have to pivot when it comes to the play calling. But that's what Aaron Rodgers does. He does his own thing. The OC can call whatever play. They'll be like, nah, I'm going to do this. I'm Aaron freaking Rodgers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. After Rachaad White goes off the board to start round 6, we see 7 straight wide receivers go off the board, Justin. Let's go through this like this. I'll read the player's name. You tell me yay or nay. Chris Godwin.
Nay. Like I said, I'm not in on these Tampa wide receivers. And I know how skilled Chris Godwin is. I have no confidence in Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield had any kind of protection, then maybe I can accept it a little bit more. But this guy is going to be on the ground a lot. And Chris Godwin might get his. Corey, I'm staying away from these receivers in Tampa.
Christian Kirk.
I'm in on him because of where I've been seeing him go in drafts. And I've got a few places where I've drafted Christian Kirk. Familiarity with Trevor Lawrence is going to be big here. And that's something that Calvin Ridley does not have at this point. And because people are threatened by Calvin Ridley, as they should be, it's another weapon that's going to take targets away from him. But it's brought Kirk down a little bit. I'm totally fine, especially if I'm getting an indirect share of Trevor Lawrence by getting Christian Kirk a little bit later. Yay.
The team also has Trevor Lawrence.
Perfect. Makes it even. And we talked about this, Corey, about the stacks and whether or not we've been seeing the elite wide receivers and then get stacked with the quarterback. Yeah. Now we're starting to see it the other way again.
The secondary stack. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We've already mentioned Mike Evans. Guy from next wide receiver to go off the board, the 4th straight wide receiver in round number 6. A guy from right up the road right here where I'm at, Big Mike Williams from the San Diego Chargers. Hey, Justin, this guy right here can really play, but
that's a big problem. And again, I try to go with the philosophy that it's football. Players are going to get hurt. That's going to happen. But again, we've seen this guy have some major injuries and be very frustrating. Justin Herbert's going to be throwing a lot. We were talking about Keenan Allen before. I love Keenan Allen. I really love Keenan Allen. I mean, Keenan Allen was a little bit banged up as well. Mike Williams, though, let me ask you this, Corey. I'll throw it back to you because right after Mike Williams, there goes George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. I almost feel like I'd be more comfortable drafting a Deontay Johnson over Mike Williams.
That's
a lot of targets, man. I know he didn't win the end zone. Yeah, that's going to change this year, man. Low bar, 0 touchdowns, but he's still going to get targeted 100+ times.
But Mike Williams catches a lot of balls in the end zone. And that's one of the things I really like about Mike Williams, but that's very close. The hype machine. We have officially seen George Pickens jump Deontay Johnson in drafts. We've seen James Cook jump Dalvin Cook. And so, we're just seeing it go down. George Pickens, the hype machine of George Pickens. You know what? I don't have Pickens anywhere yet, Justin, and before the season starts, I got a couple more drafts. I would like to get Pickens, but am I really going to pay this? Now, his price is inflated now.
And you know what? Let George Pickens go up. And again, I'll take advantage if Deontay Johnson falls and get the target monster that he is. And again, like I said, I don't care about last year that he didn't hit the end zone, Deontay Johnson. I really don't care. We're going to see some growth from Kenny Pickett. Deontay Johnson's going to be in the end zone. When it comes to Pickett, love the tape on George Pickens. I love watching this guy play here. But yeah, man, seeing him go before Deontay Johnson, very interesting here. Very flashy, and people like flash. You know that.
All right, Justin Fensterman grinding tape.
Dude, we all grinding tape. And by the way, out there, if you want to learn about how this game really works, you don't just box score serve. You watch the tape. You look for condensed games. I'm not going to say, I don't watch Red Zone a lot. Some analysts are like, you don't watch Red Zone if you're a real analyst. No, everybody watches Red Zone. People just don't want to admit it. But then what you can do, especially if you want to get better at this and you want to understand, because seeing is believing, and you can't watch every game, find a condensed game. Watch some tape. You're going to learn so much, not only in football, but in all fantasy sports, Corey. I'm old school like that. I still watch the tape a lot.
Eye test Fensterman.
Yep.
All right. Jahan Dotson. What does the eye test say on Dotson? I was
just going to say, man, we're seeing him inflated. And I just did a piece on fantasyalarm.com about this. And again, we don't know how much Terry McLaurin's going to miss of the season, if at all, maybe a week or so. But I'm very surprised that Jahan Dotson has charted up this much. And by the next few days, by the time Monday, Tuesday hits, Corey, solidified 6th round pick.
All right. I want to jump to pick 1 of round 7 as we see Jonathan Taylor go off the board, pick 1 of round 7. He goes to the team that has the first pick of the draft. That team is currently Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley. Let's just put Amari Cooper in that flex. RB1, Najee Harris. RB2, Alexander Madison. Tight end, George Kittle. And bench running back,
he clearly constructed this roster with the intention that he could take that shot. But you know what, Corey? I don't try to view it like that. Remember, just because you draft these players in that order, that doesn't necessarily mean it's automatic you're starting them in those slots right here. Now, here's the thing with Jonathan Taylor. We know he's out those 4 weeks here, but we're talking 7th round at this point. And I know that there's hope that he's either traded or he figures things out with the Colts, but there's no guarantee here. But what I'm happy that 5KHS did was at least grab another couple of running backs. But I'm guessing, Corey, what's going to happen is when it gets back to him in round 8, one of those next 2 picks, if not both, are going to be running backs from him. It's a further edge.
It could be. Well, I don't want to say no names. The guys are on the clock.
You can say they're not watching us. Come on.
Yo, dude, know, Justin. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, we're not. I mean, are we big money guys? Because these guys only focus on the big money guys here.
That's true too. You're right about that. I remember being at an NFFC draft. I remember being at a draft a couple years ago, and I was talking to one of the participants, and I'm like, "Yeah, we're getting ready to go out and around the corner and have a couple beers and stuff like that." And the guy looked at me. He looked at me up. He left his eyes, left his computer screen, and he looked at me and he said to me, "This is a business trip."
Whoa.
And I was like, "Oh, my bad." You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But let's focus in cocktails and dreams, because this is the team that is risk averse. Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, and then in round 6, Alvin Kamara. Now, this team has Cooper Kupp and Alvin Kamara on it.
Look, I mean, I'm liking the construction thus far, but this is going to be another team with cocktails and dreams. He's going to have to start loading up on some running backs here. And look, I know that Kamara's only going to miss the first few games, and we've seen that ADP stay pretty low for him. But at the end of the day, if he's got to get that other running back just for damage control. And by the way, when it comes to waivers in this league, there is no free-for-all period. There are 2 waiver periods, and that is it, Wednesday and Saturday. And that's when the bidding ends on Wednesday, or Wednesday going into Thursday and Saturday going into Sunday. So for cocktails and dreams, I feel like he's going to need to load up a little bit soon enough. And I have a feeling, just like with 5KHS, we're going to be seeing him take 2 running backs probably in his next 3 rounds after taking Kamara where he did.
All right. Cam Akers goes off the board after Dotson and before Kamara. Cam Akers, a player I've talked to some fantasy managers this year. They're high. It's like people are split on him, on Akers. You know, for where he's going ADP, I don't mind
it as well. Another guy, if he's my 3rd running back, that's totally fine. But if I'm going 0 RB, I don't want to deal with him as my number 1 running back. I want him to be my 3rd running back, necessarily not having to start him. Love the talent in Cam Akers. Saw what he did, especially at the end of that year. So with your end zone club, he's got his McCaffrey, but Cam Akers is my 2nd running back. I would have loved to have 1 or even 2 more running backs along with him, but that's very aggressive, and that would be an RB heavy build to start here.
Another risky player goes off the board in round 7. Jerry Jeudy, Denver Bronco wide receiver. Justin, I remember when Jerry Jeudy was drafted. I remember when Jerry Jeudy played for Alabama. I was like, this guy is a can't-miss talent. Man, he's missed a lot. You know what I'm saying, Justin? My God.
No, but I mean, look, we saw the reports that he's not being put on the injured reserve, or at least the plan is to not put him on the IR, but that doesn't mean he can't miss the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season.
Nothing, yeah.
And by the way, that's where we have to be careful when it comes to reporting, because I know the original report was he's going to miss, several weeks from Ian Rappaport. That doesn't give us jack. It doesn't give us anything. We need several weeks. That could be 7 weeks. That could be 2 to 3. It's very unclear how much time he's going to miss here, but at least their management in Denver said that he's not, as of now, being put on the IR. So that should at least signal us that if he misses time, it's maybe for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and that's it.
All right, these guys right here have 1:30 on the clock.
Why is that? I mean, look, I know it's price take, man, but come on, 1:30. Every draft, first of all, every draft should have a clock unless it's an established slow draft. That's the first thing. Number 2,
I agree.
We're all pros here. These guys are high stakes players. You can do it in 60 seconds. I know you can do a lot in 60 seconds.
Just relax. I know it's your anniversary. So after we have seen, let's get to some blue stickers, because we're starting to see some blue stickers pile up on the draft board. TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle close out round 6. I'm satisfied with both these tight ends. I was talking to our good buddy Adam Ronis the other day, and I'm all bragging, man, I got plenty of George Kittle this year. And Ronis is like, I don't like it. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. What is there not to like about George Kittle?
There are a lot of weapons there. And I think that's it. George Kittle also no stranger to injury as well. But from what we saw when he finally started playing in Corey last year, and this is in what a league that I'm in with a lot of my family, George Kittle was dropped towards the end of the year. And I really didn't understand why. And I needed a tight end. I scooped him right up. And literally with what he did in the last few weeks of the season, brought me to the fantasy playoffs because of that. I was shocked. Now, at the same time, I could see why people are shying away from him because, again, a lot of weapons. But from what we saw with the connection with him and Purdy, I'm totally in on him as well. And Hawkinson, I know the contract situation was a little bit up in the air, but this guy just got paid, man. I believe when it comes to how much he's earning per year now, I was looking up the numbers a little bit earlier when it came to tight ends. I think he's the per year 3rd highest paid tight end. Higher paid than Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce next contract. He's going to be paid like
Yeah.
a wide receiver. Then we go over Kyle Pitts. Can you do something for me? Dallas Goedert and my man from Pittsburgh, Pat Freiermuth. I want elite tight end this year. I don't want to play tight end chicken and have to be drafting guys that come later. Like Evan Ingram has already gone off the board. He's kind of my cutoff. I want to have my tight end by now. Justin, if it happens for Kyle Pitts this year, it's going to happen on somebody else's team because I'm out until I see it.
And I'm so glad you said that. And even last year going in, seeing where he was being drafted, I just didn't understand that. And seeing where he was being drafted earlier this summer, again, I didn't understand it. And look, this kind of applies to Drake London as well. I mean, we haven't seen much of Desmond Ridder, and they're going to run the football a lot in Atlanta. And that worries me about both these guys with where they're going, and especially Kyle Pitts as well. So between those three, I like Goddard. I'm very icy on Pat Freiermuth. And for you, like you said, I'm not drafting Kyle Pitts anywhere.
Yeah, I got to see it from Kyle
By the
Pitts.
way, I want to say this, my cutoff tight end, sure. Dalton Schultz. That's been my cutoff tight end.
Oh, you're going a little bit deeper. Okay, I got that. Then, so you're not going as deep as like
Dalton Kincaid. I try not to. I mean, look, I'm going to have, I believe in, from all my drafts, I have one share of Juwan Johnson, which I'm fine with. But yeah, really for me, what I try to do is if I'm going to go and wait, because again, I've been really focused on trying to get at least a little bit of Darren Waller. But after that, and especially if it's coming off a run, then my focus then shifts to someone like a Dalton Schultz if I'm going to wait.
Starting to get mid-level running backs, Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift go off the board. Brandon Cooks in Dallas. I found myself having a lot of Brandon Cooks as a wide receiver.
And that's somebody that you'll be able to draft late. And I'm wondering whether or not there's a lot of confidence there. He's playing on a lot of teams, man. This guy's going to be at the end of his career on half the league's teams.
Like a lot of people, I know, right? He's going to be like, you know what I'm saying? You're like, wow, you play for all of these teams? He got jersey swap with everybody. Like he might have a jersey swap with himself.
I mean, do you see this guy? Do you see Brandon Cooks being able to get targeted in the 80 to 90 range area on this Dallas team?
You know what I think Brandon Cooks, if you remember how when the Cowboys toward the end of last season added T.Y. Hilton and he made some big plays down the stretch, I think he'll be a better T.Y. Hilton for this offense. So I think a solid wide receiver 3 for fantasy. After that, we see Elijah Moore and Jordan Addison go off the board. This so happens the Elijah Moore owner, his next pick was Deshaun Watson. So now we're starting to see those secondary, maybe not even secondary, maybe fourth dairy stacks start to come together. But where are you at on Jordan Addison? That's interesting. The Minnesota Vikings.
No, I like him very much. And, part of that is because I love this Vikings offense. And I told you I was in on Madison, obviously Jefferson. I love Kirk Cousins. I think guys like Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith are being totally disrespected from drafters. They're going very late. I'm totally fine with either one as my QB1. So as an extension of Kirk Cousins, and from, again, watching a lot of the tapes and trying to find as many condensed games as I can, I love the way this guy runs. He's acrobatic. He's got a lot of agility. I love Jordan Addison. I don't have any Jordan Addison yet, but that's somebody that I wish I can have. I have a few more drafts. I'm hoping to get at least one share of. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I got a few more drafts too, and if I can get Jordan Addison, one share, I'll be cool with it. I think the Vikings are going to have a negative game script this year. Like I think the Vikings are like a 5-6 win team. I think they're going to regress off of all those one-score losses from last year. So I think the football is going to be in the air a lot, which makes it very good for fantasy. After that, we see Khalil Herbert, and then we see Deshaun Watson go off the board. I've asked this to a couple of people this draft season. Would you rather have Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson?
Ooh, I'd rather I'm going to give Watson a chance here. I mean, look, we're used to seeing Watson, and last year I throw out the window because he missed most of the year. So who knows what was going on while he was missing all that time from suspension. But Deshaun Watson is someone who I've seen over the last number of weeks fall on draft boards a little bit, and it's made me a little bit more intrigued. He's going to have a lot of protection with the strong O-line there. So with that, and he's got some more weapons there. You mentioned Elijah Moore. I'm actually fine with Deshaun Watson. I'd probably go that direction. Not hating on Russell Wilson. I don't have any Russell Wilson anywhere yet, and somebody else who's going extremely late. But Deshaun Watson, I really like when it comes to where he's been going now. We're seeing him fall. And often, Corey, what I'm seeing is there's a big gap between a Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson now. And I'm trying to take advantage of that value.
No doubt. I would agree with you on that. After Watson, Evan Ingram goes off the board. Then Gabriel Davis fooled me once. You won't fool me again. Then we see Michael Pittman. And then the dynamic duo of Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr. This is one of the draft day conundrums that a lot of people have. I am an Antonio Gibson guy. Are you a Brian Robinson guy?
I'm still an Antonio Gibson guy because now that we've got Bieniemy in there, can we just throw this guy a bunch of passes, please? Like, seriously already. What's it going to take? The guy was a receiver in college. Why are we ignoring this guy at this point? You talk about Terry McLaurin being out. Use this guy a little bit more. I love the talent of Antonio Gibson a little bit more than Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, to me, and I know he was coming off, he got shot last year, and I know that put him behind the 8 ball a little bit, but wasn't that impressed with him, man. And I still want to go after Gibson, but I find myself just shying away from the Commanders' backfield.
Yeah, I'm a Gibson guy, and I like what that Bieniemy said. He's going to be moving him around, putting him in different spots this year. Like you said, it's not really the main thing you want to target. You probably wanted to target the passing game before you target the running backs there. But when you get to this round of the draft, I think there could be some value, especially when you get into bye weeks. You're going to be like, oh, man, Antonio Gibson, yes. Brian Robinson, yes. After that, we see Tyler Lockett, Marquise Brown, and JSN. And look at this, Justin, in round 8. That's crazy. That's wild. This guy, you know how good Tyler Lockett is?
How great Tyler Lockett is. Everybody was like, oh my God, Jackson Smith-Njigba, shiny new toy. And I'm saying, get out of here with that. What did Tyler Lockett do to get disrespected where earlier in draft season, JSN was being drafted before?
JSN,
I know he is. And for Dynasty, I love it, Corey. 2 years, 3 years down the road, we're going to be all loving this guy, and he's going to be great. But there's a lot of competition for targets. And Tyler Lockett, I know he's had seasons where he's been productive for part of the year, and then all of a sudden he disappears. But we're starting to see the consistency a little bit more. I love Tyler Lockett. I have a bunch of Tyler Lockett. And to me, that's what's turned me off about JSN even before the injury.
Let's take a little bit deeper look at Team Renegade. Starts off with Austin Eckler in round 1, comes back with Devontae Smith, then executes the stack, gets Jalen Hurts. Then we see James Cook and J.K. Dobbins. So Eckler, Cook, Dobbins, running back room. And then the wide receiver room, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, Tyler Lockett, and Zay Flowers. I can get behind this team.
I mean, I like it, especially the last 2 picks he made in Lockett and Zay Flowers. I mean, love what I've seen from Zay Flowers. I think he's going to help you. Talk about you being all in on Lamar Jackson. Zay Flowers is going to be a big-time help. Let's not forget about Bateman, too. But Zay Flowers, he is going to be highly, highly productive, and I really like him. And I just love how late that he got Tyler Lockett in the 8th round. That's going to pay dividends for him.
No doubt. I'd have took Tyler Lockett before Addison, before Moore, before Sutton, before Ayuk and Judy. So good pick right there. After JSN goes to Cocktails and Dreams, it's a lot of risk on that Cocktails and Dream team. We see Devin Achane go, the Miami running back, and then the interception throwing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott. And then we see, I gotta tell the truth, Justin. If I see it, I gotta say it.
Oh, I thought you were about to.
No, Justin. No. You're not getting ready to go on one of them Dak Prescott rants, right? But I'm not, because it's a Friday night and it's your anniversary. So
I mean, you can. It wouldn't impact my anniversary one way or another here. If you're talking about like washing dishes,
he said, Corey don't like Dak Prescott no more.
I was waiting for that because Corey, I've been watching. You're on a lot of streams on Better Sports Network, and I've been watching you, and I've heard you say this a few times about the interception throwing Dak Prescott. And by the way, our producer Sean Angle here was not clowning me, but he was just mentioning, as I mentioned, I thought that he was going to go 2 straight running backs here, 5K HS after drafting Taylor, and he went just one in AJ Dillon, who I love, by the way. My prediction for AJ Dillon surpasses 200 carries this year, first time.
All right, and listen, I got him on a couple teams, so I
There's
feel
one
good about
problem,
that.
Though, Corey. There's one problem with that.
Sure.
The Packers showing interest in trading for Jonathan Taylor. So it makes me wonder if 5K HS thinks that if the Packers trade for Jonathan Taylor, they either send back A.J. Dillon or now he may have his own handcuff situation if Aaron Jones gets traded for Taylor.
Interesting stuff right there. Good call right there. Justin Fensterman with a keen eye, despite it being his anniversary. After we see A.J. Dillon go off the board to start round 9, then we see Sky Moore. Justin, I'm not really into these, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, and everybody. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Everybody else didn't work. I don't want to hear about DeMarcus Robinson. I don't want to hear about Tony. All these dudes. MVS. I'm sick of it.
I'm sick of it too, man.
Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and that's it.
Mahomes warned us about this last year. You normally don't listen to what the players have to say. Everybody is all pampering everybody normally. But Mahomes did say it to the fantasy audience that you're not going to like our offense because I'm going to spread the ball around. Obviously, Travis Kelce not included in that. He's his own mountain at that point. So I'm with you, Corey. If I'm going to take a shot on one of these Kansas City receivers, it's going to be very, very late. So I have that indirect share of Patrick Mahomes. But that's it. It's not, for me, I don't have any Sky Moore so far.
Yeah, me neither. No Sky Moore. I got some Sam Perine. He's the next guy to go off the board. Sam Perine goes to a team with Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Cocktails and Dreams. So he takes Perine to go with Jones and Kamara. He's piecing it together. No,
he is piecing it together. I mean, the running back core is going to be interesting. I mean, he's banking on at this point that Perine from the get-go is going to be getting some of those receptions because he's going to need that at this point. Again, full PPR league. I wish that running back depth had a little bit more to it, but at the same time, Corey, I know you know Cocktails and Dreams, established high-stakes player. He's definitely got some plans coming up in the next few rounds somehow to load up a little bit on these running backs.
No doubt about it. I guarantee you that. After that, we got Jamal Williams go off the board, then Zay Flowers, Nico Collins. Nico Collins, I guess we call him a post-hype sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, look, with Nico Collins and who's going to be prioritized when it comes to Houston. By the way, I mentioned Dalton Schultz before. He could be that guy. Nico Collins, again, we want to be able to think that CJ Stroud's going to be hitting him a lot. Not a lot of other established receivers on that team. So, again, would I take him before maybe a Treylon Burks? Probably not. I probably wouldn't at that point. But still, it's, again, you got to take shots. High stakes at this point. You're looking at a receiver room that's really not that deep in Houston with a prioritized draft pick that they had in CJ Stroud. So, but of course, now you got to think that Paul over here who drafted him thinks that he's going to be the top dog there.
Yep, no doubt about that on this one right there. After that, we see Tank Bigsby go off the board. Bigsby goes to that team with Antonio Gibson, Javonte Williams, Joe Mixon, and Saquon Barkley. So they got a strong running back room. And then Michael Thomas goes off the board. He'll be on the waiver wire soon. Then we see Juju Smith-Schuster go to Draymond Green's team. Hey, Justin, I think Smith-Schuster going to be the Patriots' top wide receiving target, but that probably
dude. They're about to sign you.
They'd be very disappointed they signed me, Justin.
Couldn't be much worse than what they already have, right?
After that, we see our boy Jaylen Warren. Let's take a good look at Thad's team. Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Damian Pierce, and Jaylen Warren is the running back room. The wide receiver room, DK Metcalf, Christian Kirk, Brandon Cooks, Trevor Lawrence, and Evan Ingram. So you got a Jacksonville stack with Lawrence, Cook, and Ingram, followed by Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Pierce, Warren, Jaylen Warren on the team as well to go along with Brandon Cooks. I like it.
I mean, you got to love those three running backs that he started out with, especially Damian Pierce. And I know Singletary's there too in Houston, but I think that Pierce is still going to be able to catch some passes as well besides Devin Singletary. I know that people are a little bit worried about the involvement regarding Singletary. And look, with Jaylen Warren, with the way that he's been able to address that running back position, he doesn't need Jaylen Warren to start at this point. He's going to wait and see if Najee Harris loses some of those carries early on, but I don't think that's going to happen.
All right, we are just about halfway through the draft. Round number 9 closes out with Treylon Burks, Tennessee Titans wide receiver, going to Iron Oaks, and then Zach Charbonnet shuts down round number 9. Romeo Dobbs and Anthony Richardson open up round number 10. We are rocking and rolling through this real-time fantasy sports high stakes draft. $5,000 entry fee, but you can hop in that lobby and find the price point that is best for you. When we come back on the other side, we continue to roll through this draft. It's Corey and Justin on a Friday night getting you ready for the fantasy football season.
Better Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing, chop to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Burley picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up, one second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the imposing pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson the carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the banking. You're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500.
Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer!
Pitched by Downing, swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron. The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Better Sports Network.
Everybody, join the Best Ball Championship Extra. Overall grand prize is $10,000, $100 in each prizes in each league. Get your best lineup each week: a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex. Take your shot for only $20 right here on RT Sports. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, with Justin Fensterman right here broadcasting this real-time fantasy sports draft. We are in round number 10. A round we started off with Romeo Doubs and Anthony Richardson, followed by Kadarius Toney, Raheem Mostert, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Tyler Algier, Tajay Spears, and Elijah Mitchell. Justin, let's go back up to top of round 10. I am a Anthony Richardson supporter. Talked to Scott Fish earlier this week. He told me he had him as his QB9. Was talking with our guy Lawrence Jackson out there at the Fantasy Football Expo, which I saw you at.
It was awesome, man. It was great seeing you there.
Good times. Always a good time to see and share some pleasantries with my man, Justin Fensterman. He has Anthony Richardson as QB9. I got him in some leagues as a starter, Justin. Obviously, I like the rushing upside. Where are you at on Anthony Richardson?
Haven't drafted him anywhere, but that doesn't – I've gotten, as we've gotten closer to the season starting, I've gotten more open to drafting him and some of his receivers, especially late as well, like an Alec Pierce. But I find it very interesting, Corey, that in this league, And I've seen this a few times now where someone drafts like a Deshaun Watson and then immediately goes after an Anthony Richardson type. But remember, in this particular league, you can only start the one quarterback. And it makes me wonder because Iron Oaks has just 2 running backs and that's it. It makes me wonder if maybe he should have stayed away from Anthony Richardson. And furthermore, it makes me wonder if he lacks confidence in his Deshaun Watson.
Well, and that's what it is. He lacks confidence in
Then
Deshaun
why
Watson.
draft him? That's what I don't understand.
Well, why did the Cardinals give Kyler Murray $46 million and he don't read the playbook?
He might not even play again.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I'm saying? So it happens in real life and in the fantasy life. We see Kadarius Toney go. Yeah, how weird is Kadarius Toney going back and forth with Giants fans despite being a Kansas City Chiefs Bowl champion?
Just you can't do that, man.
So
just honestly, just stay away. And we say it all the time, Corey. Like, at least I say it on these shows. It's, if these players don't perform up to your standards for your fantasy team, just leave the players alone. Come and blame us, the analysts. We're going to get stuff wrong. Blame us. Blame us. Don't go after these players because these players, even if the team wins and they don't have a great stat line, it's still a victory for them. But at the same time, it works the other way as well. And Tony should,
I don't want the player come after. I don't want to open up my DM and Kadarius Toney talking trash to me.
Right. So Tony should just kind of like Kevin Durant, just stay away from the audience. Just do your own thing on social media and don't get so defensive, okay?
Can you imagine that? Like, you open up your DM and it's a message from Kadarius Toney. You was terrible on the show today. Like, what, Kadarius? Right. Leave me alone. I'm doing the best I can.
I'm not drafting you then.
Oh, man. Hey, didn't Raheem Mostert, Raheem Mostert got a little bit of his spot solidified today. Him and Devin Achane in that Miami Dolphins backfield,
and I love Raheem Mostert, and I loved him last year as well. And obviously, we know with Jeff Wilson and his injury issues. And here's the other thing, Corey. At this point, when you draft Raheem Mostert where he's going, we're banking on that Jonathan Taylor does not get traded to the Miami Dolphins because that'll completely ruin it. Now, Raheem Mostert has had his own health issues. This is a guy that has averaged for his career over 5 yards per carry, very tough runner. And I like Devin Achane, and I think that for him, he's been a little bit banged up too. I still think even when Wilson was also still involved, or so we thought, I was still liking Raheem Mostert as well. And with a guy like Raheem Mostert, we can see what happens because let's say Taylor does get traded in the next few days to Miami. They sweeten their offer and the Colts say, okay, bye-bye, JT. You'll at least have 4 weeks with this guy to see what he's about before Taylor is even ready to return. So there is some value there, but going off what we know now with Taylor still as a member of the Colts, I'm totally cool with drafting Raheem Mostert and Achane as well. I'm open on both of these guys.
After Raheem Mostert, Kirk Cousins goes off the board. That is cute. There we go. Back.
It's disappearing for me as well. Like,
I was like, oh my God. We just got to talk to each other for the next. Who took the board down? This is terrible. No.
But Corey, what great value on Kirk Cousins. We were just kind of clowning Iron Oaks for taking 2 quarterbacks between rounds 8 and 10. Then Edward here takes his first quarterback, is Kirk Cousins, and he was able to take advantage of other values because of that. And that, again, just makes me look back to Iron Oaks and wonder what he was thinking taking Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that one right there as well. Interested. Adam Thielen, Tyler Algier, Tajay Spears, Elijah Mitchell. That trio of running backs right there. Algier more or less drafted as a handcuff to Bijan Robinson. Tajay Spears and Elijah Mitchell. I'm not really impressed.
I don't get it, man. And as someone who has drafted a lot of Derrick Henry, of course I want to handcuff the situation, but I'm seeing people overdraft Tajay Spears, and I really don't understand why. I mean, are they banking on Henry getting hurt? I don't think you can really play it like that. Maybe it's just to secure some more running back depth, but there's a reason that I haven't been able to handcuff that Titans backfield because where I'm planning on drafting Spears, or where I was, seeing him go a round or two at least earlier now in this draft, we're seeing running backs be very prioritized unlike some of these other drafts that we've seen and even broadcasted here on BSN recently. So it just makes me wonder what people are thinking with Tyjae Spears. Is he going to be utilized in the passing attack at all? We don't know. But Derrick Henry, I'm just not going to bank on Derrick Henry getting hurt just because and overdraft Tyjae Spears. I don't understand it.
Then we get back to Cocktails and Dreams. Cocktails and Dreams has Cooper Kupp, Alvin Kamara, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and David Njoku on the same team. Great team if you're playing fantasy football. Flag football. But this is a lot of injuries on this team.
And then also, let's not forget Kenneth Gainwell too, which I know that people are really high on him based on what they've read and the first team reps and all and what the beat reporters are saying. But this is such a crowded backfield. It's really hard for me, Corey. And plus, crowded backfield, and you've got one of the best runners in the game in Jalen Hurts.
You got the quarterback is the back I want.
To me, it makes me not want to invest in any of these guys.
I agree. I'm with that. I'm with that Eagle passing game. The running backs, a dime a dozen, if you ask me. Njoku, Justin, if I'm at the Njoku part of the draft, I've played tight end chicken too long.
I hear you there. Again, for me, I'd rather pass on him and go after Dalton Schultz, who we just saw get taken by John as his tight end one. And you know what? For me, that's totally fine. But again, I've been shying away from Njoku. I don't have him anywhere at this point.
Njoku is the type of player where he's on your bench. He's going to give you a 20 burger. You put him in your lineup. You thought it was a donut. You tried.
What about Dalton Kincaid, man? I mean, remember, they still got Knox there who they just gave a deal to. It just makes me wonder, is it going to be too competitive there, or is it going to be too wishy-washy with Dalton Kincaid? I almost wonder if maybe next year we should be putting a little bit more focus on Kincaid.
Kincaid goes, then we see Odell Beckham Jr. go to close round 10. Jerick McKinnon opens up round 11. I'm fine with Odell where he's being drafted. You know what I'm saying? If it hits, it hits.
These Ravens wide receivers are going at tremendous value. And like you talked about before, Todd Monken, you're going to have Lamar Jackson throwing a bit more. And it's very interesting to see all these wide receivers still go as late as they're going. So I'm totally fine. I know I was saying before that I'm not as keen on Lamar Jackson overall as my starting fantasy quarterback, and I could be totally wrong about that. But I'm fine with having an indirect share and drafting one of his wide receivers a little bit later on, especially if I'm talking a flex option or first wide receiver off the bench. I'm totally fine with that.
Moving through round 11, after Jerick McKinnon, we see Rashad Penny, another great player if you're playing flag football.
No, that's the problem, Corey. He's going to injure himself playing flag football. That's the problem.
You can't even get that right. Oh, he pulled the flag too hard.
Oh, my hip.
After Penny, we see Gainwell go off the board, followed by Rashad Bateman.
I like that, though, man. Again, another later Ravens receiver. And I feel like because of the
these Ravens wide receiver, Justin, they don't.
I understand that. But at that point, if you're thinking with the new offensive coordinator that Lamar Jackson's going to throw more, the asking price isn't that much for these guys. And if you're okay with Odell Beckham, I'm cool with Rashad Bateman as well with where he's going.
After Bateman, we see Rashawn Johnson, Chicago Bears running back, and then we see Daniel Jones. Look at my man, Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes goes to the team with Justin Fields. And then we see Dalton Schultz, the Houston tight end, go off the board that you were talking about earlier. Then Devin Singletary. All right, Devin Singletary still getting NFL checks. And then number 8 quarterback of the New York Jets goes to Draymond Green's team. G Money 23, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson. We got a stack going on. Look at that. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to have a good year this year,
you would think there again, he's not going to have that same kind of protection that he had in Green Bay. But at the same time, it makes me wonder if this was the plan for Draymond Green the entire time. Where he drafted Wilson. Like I said before, I would have drafted Diggs before him. I would have drafted St. Brown before him. I would have drafted Lamb before him. I would have drafted Devontae Adams before Garrett Wilson. But it makes me wonder, since he waited so long to grab Aaron Rodgers, if he was trying to hedge with that Garrett Wilson pick.
That looked like that stack was being developed right there. Let's go to the next team. Ezekiel Elliott, former great Dallas Cowboy running back, goes off the board. Listen, hey, Justin, let me tell you something. It's going to be some bye weeks, and you're gonna look at your bench and be like, "Oh, thank God, I got Ezekiel Elliott. He gonna score 2
and that's
touchdowns."
the thing. But does it turn you off to Ramondre Stevenson at all? Because to me,
it does not. I think it's different games.
I'm with you there. Patriots will be a run-heavy team. Ramondre will still get his. Might he get vultured a bit? He will, but still, he's going to get his. He's going to catch his passes as well. So I'm fine with going Zeke late, man. This guy was a touchdown machine last year. Helped me out of a lot of jams later in the fantasy season. Yep. So I'm cool with drafting him, and especially if you look at Thad's team, I mean, this guy has been really looking at prioritizing those running backs early and then getting intriguing options like Warren and Elliott, who, if he needs them for a week, that's fine off the bench. I'm totally fine with that.
Totally fine with that as well. After Ezekiel Elliott goes Quentin Johnson, rookie wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. He gets to get out there and hook up with independent contractor Kellen Moore, not wide receiver, offensive coordinator. Listen, I like Johnson, to be honest with you, Justin. I like Johnson. I think he can play. I think he can stretch the field, and I think Kellen Moore is going to make
big-bodied receiver. It's going to be hard to defend him. It's going to be hard to take him down. I know that they have other guys there, but one of the reasons why I love Justin Herbert so much, we saw him playing hurt for just about the entire season last year. Now 100% healthy. He's got a bunch of weapons that he could throw to, man. I like Johnston with where he's going. Again, big size and all. I got to just say this, man. We've actually, despite it being a 90-second clock or 90-second clock, we've seen teams time out in this draft. We've seen the clock expire, and I'm wondering what the hell is going on here. I'm seeing 3 zeros. I'm like, what is a minute 30? Not enough time? Seriously. God.
We are now 90 minutes into this draft as we start round number 12 on Justin's anniversary. Deontay Foreman, who had a great year last year, goes off the board. And then to the Chicago Bear running back this year, he was a real big fill-in last year for the Carolina Panthers. Like, him and Tua almost took one of my teams to the almost had one of my teams qualify for the playoffs, and then Tua got hurt, whatever. After Deontay Foreman, Jameson Williams, I think J-Mo should have appealed that suspension and get those games cut down. He decides not to. So you got to stash him on your bench. This guy can really play, Justin. But whenever you put somebody on your bench and be like, oh, I'm going to hold on to them until they get ready to play and then I'm going to stash and cash, it really don't work.
What happens if this guy is, let's just say, 1-4 or 1-5 by the time he's coming back? That's a waste of a roster spot right there. That's going to be a problem for him.
Yeah,
However, I will say this. He's got a good amount of receivers at this point, but still a little bit of a wasted roster spot. And now we know that this guy is not going to be in for the first 6 games. And this is where we have to kind of separate fantasy from reality NFL, because you got to think playoffs at this point start obviously in fantasy before the NFL regular season ends. So you got to view this as a little bit differently. And with Jameson Williams, I mean, this is going to be a wasted bench spot. And I know it's an 18-round draft, so there's a little bit more wiggle room. And we know that the talent is there, but the opportunity won't be there. And again, if this guy is 2-4 or 1-5, that's a major problem.
And listen, I've played in these leagues before. You're not having that extra roster spot, you're going to leave points on your bench. So you're going to have points on your bench and a 0 from Jameson Williams. You know what I'm saying? Makes it very difficult. After J-Mo, we see Alan Lazard go off the board, followed by Kareem Hunt. And then in round 12, Justin Tucker goes off the board. Will you pay $5,000 and take a kicker in the 12th round? Come on, bro.
Not at all, man. You know what? Whether I'm playing in a league that costs $5 to enter or $5,000,
which this one may have been.
I mean, look, someone's always going to be that guy to want to start with the kickers and the defense. That has never been me. You know what? I'll tell you this, Corey. In an auction, if I start to see, let's just say, someone put that first defense up for $1 and no one's putting it up to $2, I'll go after the second defense.
Justin, people do not understand that. When you are in an auction, never nominate a kicker or a defense that you want for $1, because somebody's going to come and go 2. And if you go 3, that's bad business right there. So put him out for 2, get your player, because if you put him out for 1,
bro, I actually the other night was in an auction, and some of these players, it's not just, your friends from home. I had like Joe Dolan, Graham Barfield, some of the Fantasy Points crew in that league. Our buddy Trevor Ray was in that one. And I put San Francisco up for $1. No one raised them.
Nice.
And that's luck, by the way. I was expecting someone to go the extra $1. That was pure luck right there. That normally doesn't happen.
Here go 2 late round tight ends if you're playing tight end chicken that people talk about a lot. Tyler Higbee and Juwan Johnson. I feel like Juwan Johnson got some Bigfoot to his game. Like we hear about the talent, but we
also hear about how much he and Derek Carr are connected, and that, and that's, again, you got to.
That's the same thing every year with Juwan
He's his
Johnson.
favorite target. Well, you know what? That doesn't mean anything at this point here. So, look, but he didn't take him as his tight end 1. Took him as a second tight end 2, which maybe, again, would have waited a little bit. It's not like there are no waivers or anything in this league. You already got his tight end.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I wonder if he just felt that there was no one that was appealing, and then who goes after him? Marvin Mims. And, by the way, we just nearly saw Justin Huntley time out. He was about 7 seconds away from timing out. That shouldn't happen.
All right, after that, Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is the name. Listen, these Denver Bronco wide receivers, bro. This team scores 12 points a game.
When I think of Mims, I think of that old song, "This Is Why I'm Hot." I think of that right there. That's the only thing. But look, with Jerry Jeudy and the weird reporting surrounding Jerry Jeudy, some of these other Denver Broncos, not Cortland Sutton as much, because I've been watching draft boards. His ADP has kind of stayed the same, so you get him at great value, but you're seeing Mims, you're seeing Dulcich start to move up a little bit, but Jeudy can only end up missing a week or 2. So that makes it very interesting. But, yeah, Marvin Mims, someone that's been moving up, though.
Marvin Mims followed by Jacoby Myers and then Damian Harris and then Darnell Mooney. And then Tua goes off the board. The Tua team also has Dak Prescott. Kind of a balance. Who would you start week 1? Tua or Prescott?
If anything, Corey, and it's weird to say this, I'm looking to see who else was on the board. I would have, instead of drafting Dak, where he drafted Odell Beckham, I would have put Tua right there.
Okay. He's still
which is great and all, but it's almost like, is it a waste of pick there? Because this isn't a super flex or anything. Is it a waste of a draft pick where he got Dak?
No, when you got Tua, if you got Tua, you need a solid another quarterback, Justin, because Tua got the concussion.
I was going to ask you about this next. Do you think, and this is all just, throwing this in the air, do you think that if his head hits the ground and he's got those symptoms, do you think that the league will have such a microscope on the Dolphins because of the fiasco with him last year that maybe the league tries to force their hands and hold him out a little bit longer than maybe originally anticipated?
4 concussions in the calendar year is very dangerous.
No, and I understand that.
I think that kind of ended Devontae Freeman's career when he had those back-to-back concussions like that. So listen, I want Tua to be healthy and successful. You know what I'm saying? But by the same token, it's very risky for me to put him on the fantasy team. And listen, Justin, if he gets hurt, if he suffers a concussion this year, I think they shut him down.
So just let's say week 1 or 2, he suffers 1 concussion. You think that's it?
You know how hard it would be to put him back on the field into the microscope with today's
they paid Mike White for a reason, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And look, man, I almost wonder, though, if he could have drafted Tua maybe in round 9 or 10 and then got Dak after that. Makes me wonder if he drafted Dak Prescott too soon.
Maybe that was the case as opposed to pulling Tua up the board. We start round 13 with Rondell Moore and then Zay Jones and then Cocktails and Dreams strikes right here with Deion Jackson. That's a Cocktails and Dream type pick. Deion Jackson,
I love that, by the way.
Could be a 4-week starter running alongside Anthony Richardson.
And also remember, I know everybody is all thinking Zach Moss, but Zach Moss is not starting the season healthy.
Zach Moss is a flag football guy.
I love this. I love these flag football references. Draymond Green, you're pretty good at this, man.
Apparently
No,
not.
Corey, I've known you for years and years. You've always been a grinder. You make these shows fun. That's what it's all about. We're not trying to make it, oh my God, fantasy nerds. We're not like that, you and I.
Yeah.
We're just not.
No.
No disrespect to anyone who's a fan.
Yeah, no disrespect, but we're not going to do that. After Deion Jackson, we see Jeff Wilson go off the board to the end zone club, followed by Rashee Rice, another one of those Kansas City Chief wide receiver projects. Rashee Rice, you know what I'm saying? These are the guys that Matt Deutsch talks about. I love me some Rashee Rice, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I'm not going to draft Rashee Rice.
He is like that. He's got his guy. I remember I remember in like 2010, he's like, Jordan Norwood, make sure you draft him in the 10th round. And it's like, okay, Matt, thank you very much.
The Jordan Norwood season, right. You know what I'm saying?
But look, so you gotta, if you believe in the player, you gotta take a shot. But this can't, despite how great Patrick Mahomes is, and we saw it last year, it is frustrating having some of these Kansas City receivers because you just don't know which one's going to go off on a given week. I mean, how many times did we try to play the freaking record on Mecole Hardman? And we talked about MVS. It's just become a crapshoot. And outside of Travis Kelce, like I said to you before, at least if it's really, really late, like final couple of rounds here, okay, I get it. Rashee Rice was going pretty late here. I get it, but I can't have that confidence just because he has Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball.
Paul Grigsby times out. The auto pick selects the Dallas Cowboy defense. And then we see another Dallas Cowboy go off the board. And this guy is very interesting. The shifty Deuce Vaughn joins a running back room with Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, Tank Bigsby. Now they add Deuce Vaughn to that room. Solid.
Who do you like better, Vaughn or Dowdle?
I actually like Malik Davis, but I think you got to really look at Vaughn.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting. And I don't view any of these guys as a threat, by the way, to Tony Pollard at this point. To me, straight handcuff, and that's it. And it's not like he doesn't have weapons to throw to. We talked about guys, obviously like Lamb, but Cooks as well. So to me, with Deuce Vaughn, just trying to shore up that depth because, again, you got to play this draft a little bit. And we've seen, and again, for those that are just joining us here on BSN, 2 wide receivers starting and 1 flex. So you don't have to put as much pressure on drafting a bunch of wide receivers. Some of these teams did, but we've seen a hell of a lot of running backs, and we saw that happen early in the draft.
You remember, Justin, back in the day, people would always say, if you play in the standard league, your flex should be a running back. If you play in the PPR league, your flex should be a wide receiver. Those days are gone now. Like, running backs catch too many passes to just be, constructed to the roster.
Oh man, Corey, running backs used to be the bee's knees. It's seriously, man. Everybody used to prioritize running backs like crazy, even in full PPR. But here's the problem now. Now we're seeing a lot more committees. We're seeing a lot more split backfields. The era of 3 down backs, I don't want to say it's going away, but it's definitely gone down a bit. I mean, look at some of these situations that we're dealing with. We've been talking about Philly. We got to talk about a team like Detroit, Chicago. It's become at this point multiple running backs here, and that's why for me, as much as I want to get an elite wide receiver, if I could get one of these 3 down backs, established 3 down backs early, I'm going to try to do that, man.
So the last player to go off the board was New England Patriot tight end Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki is known for maybe the worst gritty of all time. So now, if he catches a touchdown pass from Mac Jones, Mac Jones and Mike Gesicki, Mac Jones and Mike Gesicki in the end zone doing the gritty. Not necessarily Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. How's your gritty,
I mean, look,
Justin?
man, I'm going to a wedding in 2 days, so I'll try to have my wife videotape me doing it. Making a jerk of myself at this point here. But hey, man, you know what? It's like when you're in that moment, I wonder if it's like pre-planned. Like if you catch a touchdown, what are you going to do? Or are you just kind of feeling it out? Like, for instance, do you think Terrell Owens back in the day said, you know what? I'm going to catch a touchdown pass, hit the end zone, and I'm going to grab someone's popcorn. And I'm going to put it right in my face mask right there. By the way, one of my favorite Sports Illustrated covers of all time. Terrell would put the popcorn in his face.
Standing on the stall. Oh, no, with the popcorn. Shout out to T.O. Shout out to Tony Romo, the great Tony Romo. That was a quarterback who cared.
Blah, 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 blah. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, Justin, remember you was talking about the Miles Sanders clip that, I was the one that found that, right?
It was you.
I was the one that found it. I was up here one night. I was up here. I was enhanced, and I was just going through YouTube, and I was like, "Oh, let me watch this." And I saw that, and the next morning, I told our buddy Andrew Cooper, and he taped it and he put it out there. You know what I'm saying? On that same episode, right? They were talking to Bryce Young right after they drafted him, and they asked Bryce Young about which receiver they were going. They said we're going to draft a receiver on day 2, and they asked Bryce Young, and he said Jonathan Mingo. Carolina Panthers did select Jonathan Mingo. He just went off the board. When you look at that Carolina receiving group, there's a guy who's still on the board that I really like a lot. But talk about Mingo and the rest of that receiving room in Carolina.
First of all, I love Mingo. Mingo is one of my most invested players. You draft him late. I just love the speed, short passing. I mean, this guy can go 15 yards out. He can go 10 yards out. Bryce Young's going to need that help, need someone to go short. And I think that's going to be him. Do I think that Adam Thielen is going to be prioritized to start? Absolutely. Do I think, though, that Mingo could lead this team in receptions when all said and done? Abso-freaking-lutely right there. Big receiver.
Wow.
I mean, dude, I don't think it's that hot of a take. I mean, who else do they really have besides Thielen? I mean, they've got, DJ Chark. He's been a little bit banged up. Hard guy to rely on. He's going to be your deep threat right there. And then Terrace Marshall, he's also been pretty banged up as well. So if anything, maybe Mingo being healthy has access to a few more targets early, and Bryce Young can establish that confidence factor in him. I love Mingo. You could get him very late. I've got 3 shares of him so far.
Jonathan Mingo goes off the board, and then we see Van Jefferson. That was a wasted pick.
Van Jefferson. Yeah, again, a lot of these with the Rams, outside of guys like Cooper Kupp, and we were talking about Higbee before, I don't know what the heck to make of really anybody else on this Rams team. Not that impressed with them. Stafford doesn't even know who's on his own team at this point.
Stafford going to get benched this year. That's going to be Stetson Bennett team by halfway through the season.
I wonder if there's got to be some kind of future out there. Which quarterback gets benched first? I wonder what the odds are on Stafford. I don't think it's going to happen. Probably going to be someone like Baker Mayfield.
I ain't going to say Baker Mayfield. Oh, listen, it could be Russell Wilson. I think Drew Brees is going to be like, man, I'm not playing with this guy.
Wow.
And not Drew Brees.
For a second, I'm like, Drew Brees going to come out of retirement? Wow. by the way, our better boss here, Matty Deutsch, who, by the way, I think is in an auction right now, mid-auction. How you're able to do an auction and pay attention to us right here. That's amazing right there. Dual focus. Bryce Young, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Corey.
I love it. I think he's going to be that player if Frank Reich don't mess it up. They got to get that protection scheme right. But to me, this was a 1-quarterback draft. And the Carolina Panthers got that 1 quarterback. I want to dig into Trent Tackleberry's team, right? He just took his first tight end, Chika Conwu, tight end for the Tennessee Titans. That's that team's tight end 1. Now, the wide receiver room is Diggs, St. Brown, Debo, Addison, Dobbs, and the throwaway pick of Van Jefferson. The running back room is Breece Hall, Rashad White, Khalil Herbert, Charbonnet, Chase Brown, Deontay Foreman. The lone tight end, Okonwu, the quarterback, Justin Herbert.
I don't like his running backs at all. And look, if Breece Hall ends up, being healthy and being able to essentially take away Dalvin Cook immediately, then I'm going to be totally wrong on that. But I don't love the running backs overall. I wish he had a few more of established guys going there. Love the wide receivers outside of the Van Jefferson pick. You mentioned Romeo Dobbs. I know he's a little bit banged up right now. I love Romeo Dobbs. Instead of drafting Christian Watson as early as we've seen him go, I'd rather wait and then draft Romeo Dobbs, who's going to help with the short game. So I like him a little bit better. Chig Okonkwo, before they got Hopkins, I was loving this guy. If you look last season in the final, I want to say 6-7 weeks, Chig Okonkwo was one of the most productive fantasy tight ends during that stretch. Another guy, big-bodied tight end, who I thought could be excellent in an offense that didn't have a lot of pass catchers besides Treylon Burks. And now you've got DeAndre Hopkins there who can help with those short passes. DeAndre Hopkins is not a deep threat. He's the guy that after the catch, he's going to do his damage, but he's going to go 10, 12 yards out and then turn around. He's going to cross 10, 12 yards out and get open. And that, to me, poses a major threat to Chig Okonkwo. Still, would I draft him as my tight end one? Probably not. Now, before, though, they signed Hopkins, I was all in on Chigo Okonkwo. He was my Dalton Schultz before that happened.
I think DeAndre Hopkins is washed up.
Wow. I mean, look, from what we saw, he was all right last year when he finally played.
I don't think like good players have to go on tour to find a team and end up like when you're an offensive player and you get invited to New England and Tennessee, it's like, what's going on here? Now, they might have been the teams that was willing to spend the money, particularly Tennessee, because they were in more dire situations. But you ever see like a free agent wide receiver go to Tennessee and have a renaissance of his career? I think Tennessee is a place where wide receivers go to be extremely average.
Look, we've seen it. We've definitely seen it. They're obviously going to be run heavy, but I'm still going to kick the tires, though, when it comes to Hopkins, man. I've got a couple of shares of him. Didn't have to draft him too early, but I'm not hating on him, man. I still think that the talent's there and having that veteran quarterback in Tannehill. And here's the thing. He doesn't need to go deep to be productive, and that's where we're going to see him excel. And especially if Tannehill's going to be on the run as much as he's going to be, having someone there short like Hopkins is going to be very good for him.
You know, I have been drafting some Jalen Hyatt, though.
I've been drafting Hyatt, and I've been drafting Paris Campbell as well.
Really, Paris Campbell,
if he's lining up in the slot and where we're able to take him at this point, it's not a big investment. You're talking about a dollar value player that if he's lining up in the slot, he's going to be getting a good amount of targets. Jalen Hyatt, I love the talent there. These Giants receivers are going so late. I mean, you got Darren Waller's going early. You know Saquon's going to be catching a bunch of passes. The Giants receivers, though, man, they're going super late, and I'm willing to invest. And someone like Paris Campbell, I know he's had major health issues, but if he's going to be starting in the slot, man, until he gets hurt week 3, I'm going to try to at least take advantage of the first 2 weeks. I'm probably not going to be starting him at that point, but let's say he doesn't get hurt. This guy can find himself getting 70 to 80 targets.
All right, we are into round 15 of this 18-round real-time fantasy sports high-stakes fantasy football draft. This is a 5K entry, but you do not have to pay $5,000 to play in a league on real-time fantasy sports. They have a price point that fits your budget. Hop in the lobby and find that. Do a couple of these, but pay attention to this one so you can have this advice as you go into your weekend drafts and throw one back for the fantasy exec and Justin Fensterman while you're out there having a good time with your buddies. Our man Cocktails and Dream takes Sam Laporta. I think he's an interesting.
Very intrigued by him. I have one share of him. He took him after Njoku, so I'm wondering by mid-season if he's going to be starting Laporta over Njoku. I think early on, I think you're going to see that once we're through a few weeks there. I think he's going to be ending up starting Laporta over Njoku, especially with Jameson Williams out for as long as he's out. Not a lot of pass-catching weapons there in Detroit.
Yeah, I hate that Jameson Williams is going to lose a quarter of another season. And listen, he placed a bet like while he was in the facility. Like they should have like a skiff. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go into the facility, you put your phone in the skiff, and then you get your phone when you're walking out.
Nobody would ever play sports again in this day and age. Everybody needs to be on their phone, man. Everybody needs to be on their phone. This isn't 6th grade, man, where it's like keep your phones in the front right there. But man, you're right there. But at the same time, I don't see a world where that happens as we're seeing Paul 5 seconds away from timing out. He just made it.
No, he didn't. He took Harrison Butker, and he took a kicker, and so he wouldn't time out. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Paul. That round closed with Gerald Everett. Now we get into those tight ends where it's like these guys are going to end up on the waiver wire more than
exactly. And that makes me wonder why they're being. And again, the 18 rounds is probably part of the reason, but you're going to have that opportunity on the waiver wire. Why not just try to find ways to continue loading up on wide receivers and running backs? I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that right there. It's after that, round 15 starts with Tyler Boyd, then Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is interesting, I think, and you can get him pretty late. A lot of people off on the passing game, with Pittman and Pierce in Indianapolis, because obviously, that's concerns about Anthony Richardson getting the ball down the field. at the price at cost, I don't mind the Colts.
I view Alec Pierce like I view these giant receivers. Hardly anything you have to invest in, paths to targets, and that's what we're looking for at this point. In these rounds, Corey, where we really can't find volume, there's still those players with the path to volume. They're not locks, they're not guarantees, but Alec Pierce does not have a lot of competition for targets, and that's something that's going to be huge. Now, we were talking about Deion Jackson before. He's a pass catcher guy. So with that, that's going to be a little bit, but besides him, Pittman, that's for the most part it. So I think that pick right there is great for him. They got it late. He's not going to have to start him. He has a bunch of other receivers before that. And then if it pans out, he can flex this guy after a few weeks. So I'm totally fine with that. And Corey, I know that you like Anthony Richardson. There's your extension right there. There's your indirect share.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I got a couple shares, and there goes the indirect one right there. After Pierce, we get a trio of, I guess you can call them running backs: Chuba Hubbard, Leonard Fournette, and then Kyren Williams. Williams is a guy that Ronas was telling me that is getting talked up a lot out there with the Rams. He's going in round 15, and your draft this weekend, he may not even be drafted. Like, I don't really I can't wait to draft a Rams running back, a team that's going to be playing from behind all season and probably throwing the ball. You know what I'm saying? But he could earn some carries. At this point in the draft, it don't make a difference, but I feel like it could be a
I view him more as a handcuff. And yes, I know that there's intrigue there, whether or not he can maybe take some of that volume away from Cam Akers. I mean, is there an opportunity to? Yes. I mean, Cam Akers, can you fully trust him? I mean, I feel like you can trust Cam Akers, at least for the early parts, not someone that you overdraft, but as your third or fourth running back. But then maybe, Corey, and we were talking about this with Tyjae Spears a little bit earlier, some of these handcuffs that are being drafted a round or two earlier than we would expect. Kyren Williams falls into that category for me as somebody that I would draft maybe a round earlier if I had Akers, just to shore it up if I'm unsure about Akers.
Yeah, he goes to a team that has Austin Eckler, James Cook, J.K. Dobbins, along with Spears and Johnson. And then you bring Williams in that running back group as well. Health is going to be critical for that team right there. Allen Robinson went to Draymond Green's team. And boy, you talk about had a horrible year a couple years ago, Allen Robinson. This guy just fell off.
Bro, I was so invested.
Remember him and Blake Bortles?
I was too. I had about 4 shares of Allen Robinson.
Oh boy, it really was bad. I was cutting him out.
Dude, I don't have any hair.
He was on the waiver wire. Justin, I know you. That was before Allen Robinson.
Tell anybody that. By the way, Corey, we got a comment actually in our chat from Chris Thompson saying, first, loving the live stream. Thank you very much for watching, Chris, and for everybody else out there as well. But what's up with that dumpster fire from the one hole right there?
Well, let's go investigate this dumpster fire from the one hole.
If you are watching this stream, you got a little bit of a hater right there on the team. So, Corey, I mean, you look at this.
Let's dig in, Justin. The wide receivers, Jefferson and Ridley, right? Harris and Madison at the running backs. The quarterback, let's go Tua and not the interception thrower. George Kittle. Flex would be A.J. Dillon.
Probably his flex would end up being Odell.
Or Amari Cooper. Cooper.
That's not. Yes, his flex would be Amari Cooper at this point. There's your flex. I don't know if I would. I don't think it's a dumpster fire. Do I? When looking at these teams the way they are right now, do I think that this team is going to be in contention for the championship? Probably not. But at the same time,
God, Justin Jefferson and Calvin.
Yeah, Ridley. I mean, look, you love it very much here, and I told you some of my fears with Calvin Ridley, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be productive or anything. Look, if Jonathan Taylor, if everything gets figured out after the 4 weeks, let's just say that he and the Colts management kiss and make up and everything like that, then all of a sudden, look at the value that he just got in Jonathan Taylor. So that's really the difference maker right there.
That's a big piece right there. But right now, Jonathan Taylor's not a football player, so you can't really count on him. But I can see Tua and Jeff getting hot and carrying this team.
Obviously, I mean, great with Justin Jefferson, I don't want to call him the consensus number 1 overall pick. Majority shares are taking him number 1 overall. So you can't go wrong there, man. And again, I'm not calling this team a dumpster fire at all. I kind of love what he did at the tight end spot with George Kittle. I'm fine with that compared to some of the other things that we've seen here. I mean, I like Tua. I'm totally fine with Tua. Like I said, I would have drafted, maybe waited on Prescott a little bit, drafted Tua, and then drafted Prescott even right after him if you're that worried about Tua's health and what the league could do if he gets concussed. So I'm not calling this team a dumpster fire. I like the receivers for the most part, except for Rondale Moore. The running backs I like as well. Corey, you might have just talked me into thinking that this team might be a contender.
It might be the champions. You know what? It might be the champ. Look, matter of fact, the team, Justin, look at the avatar.
Oh, dumpster fire. Oh,
it's the dumpster fire. They got us analyzing the team, and we're not even paying attention to the damn board.
We think dumpster fire. We think that he's talking about the team.
Yeah, and then the guy is actually a dumpster fire. Oh, what happened? Oh, okay, we got it back.
That's a dumpster fire situation right there.
Yeah, that would have been a dumpster fire. We would have lost the board and people. Now, what happened? Draymond Green timed out.
I do not know. I think there might be some technical difficulties right there.
After the coming up, closing out round 15 with Jerome Ford, Sean Tucker, and Chase Edmonds. Jerome Ford is the name that sticks out right there. Now he plays for Cleveland. They probably got the best running back in football, but Ford ends up on the team with Nick Chubb. I like this team right here. Thad's team, I like Thad's team.
He did a great job with the running backs, knowing how many wide receivers you're starting. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to, just because we've seen it in all these drafts, load up on wide receivers. And so what did he do? He knew that he was going to be able to get some good running backs out of it. You can't hate on the first 3 picks. And considering, Corey, that he ended up taking 3 running backs to start, the wide receiver room, not that bad.
Look at that with DK Metcalf and Christian Kirk. That's crazy. Yeah, I love it.
Amazing. No, I'm in with you on Thad's team. I like it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence and Geno Smith. I mean, look, Corey, if this were you here and you're seeing half the league at this point taking a second quarterback in an 18-round draft, does it make you want to force yourself to take a quarterback? Or because you're only starting one, you'll be like, look, there's going to be someone on the waiver wire, even if I need a streamer or 2 for a couple of weeks.
It'll be someone on the waiver wire, especially I get the quarterback right.
No trading in this league, by the way.
No high stakes rules, no trading in the league. You can't get collusion. I'm fine with Jordan Love. I'm fine with Bryce Young.
What about Brock Purdy?
I'm fine with Brock Purdy.
Corey, it called me crazy, man. I was thinking and trying to convince myself a little bit that if I really waited on quarterbacks, let's say Geno Smith.
Don't wait that long.
Let's say Geno Smith. For me, Geno Smith's been my baseline. If he was off the board, do I go after Brock Purdy as my starting quarterback in fantasy?
I would go Jordan Love. If I played quarterback chicken too long. But you see, I pulled Geno up the board. I pulled Geno up to that Tua Dak Prescott range. I think Geno's going to have a hell of a year this year. I'm a Geno Smith supporter.
I am too. Now, look, can we see some regression from him last year? Last year, this guy was the most accurate quarterback in football. No, we're not kidding.
I think it's that offense. I think it's that offense.
And look, with Geno Smith, and I don't care if you want to say you want to mark Seattle as more of a run-heavy team. Zach Charbonnet is going to be catching passes, major pass-catching threat. That's why I have as many shares of Geno Smith as I do. You can get him late. We saw him throw about 580 times last year. And so even if we see slight regression on the accuracy, he's still going to have a great fantasy year.
So with Geno, right, I think he's going to be efficient. Yes, they are a run-heavy team, but when he throws, it means something. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I want to get involved with the Seattle Seahawks defense. Offense, It may not be up and down like the Detroit Lions, but it's going to be very efficient, and that works as well. Raheed Shaheed, then a whole bunch of defenses. Ty Chandler, Gus Edwards. At some point this year, Gus Edwards is going to be a dude that's going to make a start for the Baltimore Ravens.
I mean, look, based on what we've seen with J.K. Dobbins' health, yes. And I was actually talking to one of our friends here, Phil Backert there, who's very, been in the industry as long as we have here. And he's a big-time Ravens guy. And I was saying when J.K. Dobbins was having his hold-in situation, was Gus Edwards really that much of a downgrade from J.K. Dobbins? I mean, look, J.K. Dobbins can do a little bit more than Gus Edwards, but is it that sharp of a downgrade? Because I was considering maybe getting a couple of shares, not knowing what the future held for J.K. Dobbins. So I like that late pick there by Justin.
All right, we are into round 17. Fincey, let's look at some of these rumors right here. We've already talked about the dumpster fire. Now let's get to team 2. Jamar Chase, Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Sky Moore, Darnell Mooney, Zay Jones, Alec Pierce, the wide receivers, Gibbs and Stevenson, the running backs, Joe Burrow, the quarterback, Hockenson, tight end. Your flex on this team would likely be Devin Achane.
I would say, yep, that's probably where I'm going to with the flex here. So
let me tell you, here's the deal. The first 4 picks, Chase, Gibbs, Stevenson's, Burrow, fantastic. Hockenson, I like. Jerry Jeudy on this team is a mistake.
With Jerry Jeudy, I mean, look, what if he only ends up missing a week or so, and then that's it, and he comes?
Do we ever do anything?
I mean,
though?
Again, the thing with Russell Wilson this year and the whole Russ Cook and everything, Denver's coming into this year with a beefed up offensive line. And I think that they're going to give Russell Wilson more time to throw. And I like Jerry Jeudy here, but again, he could be missing the first couple of weeks of the season. And we thought at first it was going to be more than that. But now from what we know, from what we heard, no injured reserve for him as of today, as of this moment here. So for Jerry Jeudy as his third wide receiver, it's a little bit risky right there, Corey. I mean, I don't love this team especially, but you're right. You can't go wrong with the first 4 picks here, even though I haven't gotten Jahmyr Gibbs anywhere. I love Chase and I love Stevenson. And like I told you before, Joe Burrow is my favorite player in football.
Our man Chad Schroeder, Cocktails and Dreams, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, JSN. And then we get down to the running backs, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Sam Pirine, Gainwell, Damian Harris, Deion Jackson, Hubbard, Chandler, and Ingram. Quarterback on this team is Patrick Mahomes. Another top-heavy team with Mahomes and Hill. I like Aaron Jones. If Cooper Kupp hits and Alvin Kamara hits and JSN hits, this is a problem.
I mean, but look at this, man. After round 8, he has not drafted a wide receiver since, man. Very interesting. So at this point, he's got JSN, who's a little bit banged up, as his 5th. And then, I mean, I love Brandon Ayuk.
But look at Deion Jackson is a great pick.
I agree with that.
Right? Pirine is a great pick. Gainwell could end up being a great pick. So, listen, I'm sure he's played in this league before. What he's saying is you need running backs to win in this format.
Absolutely. So what did he do? He went with the wide receivers essentially early, and he got Patrick Mahomes there, so he beefed up there, and now he's just completely loading up, man. So he's filling up his depth with a bunch of flyers. That's really what it comes down to.
Next team, Christian McCaffrey, Cam Akers, Jamal Williams, Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Zach Moss, and Leonard Fournette in the running back room. Jalen Waddle, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin. And then you got Kyle Pitts as the tight end. Also got Marquise Brown, Rashard Bateman, Jacoby Myers. Starters would look like McCaffrey, Akers, Josh Allen, Jalen Waddle, D-Hop, McLaurin is the flex, Kyle Pitts is the tight end. That's not bad.
Not bad. I mean, is it my favorite team in this league? No. I mean, look, he got Zach Moss late, and Zach Moss could be back in the first couple of weeks of the season. So we were talking about Deion Jackson. Zach Moss could end up being the featured back there. I mean, drafting Jeff Wilson makes me wonder if he's been watching the news lately regarding Jeff Wilson's health, man. It's not like they're short running backs there in Miami, too. So I have to question that pick a little bit.
Let's get to the next team. Austin Eckler and James Cook. Well, Austin Eckler, Dobbins starting running backs. Smith, Dotson starting wide receivers. Hurts the starting quarterback. You put Cook in the flex. You got Dallas Goedert as a tight end, Tyler Lockett, Zay Flowers, Spears, Roschon, Mims, Rice, Reed, Williams.
I like this team a lot too, especially what he did up top. I mean, he got his little connection right there with Hurts and Devontae Smith. We were talking about how much we like James Cook. The issues with Dobbins is over as long as he can stay healthy. I mean, Jahan Dotson, again, flying up draft boards. We talked about that. And then, look, I like what he really went in on the Eagles, again, getting Dallas Goedert there. So we ended up stacking Philadelphia. And then we talked about this, and maybe my two favorite picks from his team, considering where they got him, Tyler Lockett and Zay Flowers, where I think he got tremendous value on. And even Marvin Mims there a little bit later on. So I like this team.
This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why this team is hot. Next team, Bijan Robinson, Travis Etienne, starting running backs, A.J. Brown, Drake London, starting receivers. Justin Fields is the quarterback. That flex spot will likely go to Deontay Johnson. Also got Brian Robinson, Nico Collins, Tyler Algier, Juwan Johnson, Pat Freiermuth.
Decent there. I mean, look, going Justin Fields and then going Daniel Jones. I mean, looking at some of the other players that he ended up passing up on, but we've seen some of these other teams go two quarterbacks as well. And again, like you said, Corey, even in an 18-rounder, I would have still taken, even if I'm seeing a quarter or half of these teams going with the two quarterbacks, I'm still taking just the one.
Next team, Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, starting running backs. Olave and Pickens, starting wide receiver. Your flex would be Javonte Williams. Your quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Tight end, Dalton Schultz. Antonio Gibson, Tank Bigsby on the team. Adam Thielen, Tyler. I like it. Deuce Vaughn, as a matter of fact,
I love
like
this team, man.
Yeah.
He did a great job. He's got a lot of depth in all places. And you look, even Dalton Schultz doesn't pan out there because you were even saying from the draft, it's a one quarterback draft, and you have all that confidence in Bryce Young. And if CJ Stroud stinks and he's not able to connect with Schultz there, he kind of hedged a little bit by going with Tyler Higbee, who doesn't have too much competition for targets, especially with now the status up in the air for Cooper Kupp. I think he established his depth everywhere, and I think he protected himself nicely. And the other thing is, look, he got Lamar Jackson, but then he ends up getting Brock Purdy late too. And I don't love the two quarterback thing, but ending up pretty decent there still after Lamar Jackson. I really like this team.
All right, next up, Miles Sanders, Ken Walker, starting running backs, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams, starting wide receiver. Put Pittman in that flex. Travis Kelce is the tight end. Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. Then you got Michael Thomas, Devin Singletary, decent team. It's really going to be on the back of Devontae Adams.
Yeah, no, absolutely there. And look, I like Miles Sanders, and I think Ken Walker's good as well here. And we'll have to see with Dalvin Cook. Look, if Dalvin Cook, let's just say, if he is prioritized early, then that can help him through the first few weeks of the season. But eventually, Breece Hall is going to get those carries back, and then Cook's going to be, at least in my opinion, pushed to the side a little bit. I don't see this, even though I think that the Jets are going to bring Breece Hall in a little bit slowly for the first handful of weeks. At the end of the day, as long as he stays on the field, this is Breece Hall's backfield.
Next team, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco, Darren Waller is the tight end. Mike Evans is the flex. The quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I'm with this.
I like this team as well. Especially what he did. Waiting on Aaron Rodgers, he absolutely has a plan there. Wondering if maybe he's a Jets fan, but drafting Garrett Wilson, we debated this before. Did he draft Garrett Wilson over guys like Stephon Diggs, St. Brown, and Lamb, and even Devontae Adams with the intention of getting Aaron Rodgers late? Might be the case.
Good job, Draymond Green. You don't have to have Draymond Green's bankroll to play
at
RT
podcast.
Sports. There's a price point for you. Check out the lobby. Next team, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, starting running back, starting receivers, DK Metcalf, Christian Kirk. You put Brandon Cooks in the flex. You got Damian Pierce, Trevor Lawrence.
I'm not putting Brandon Cooks in the flex. I'm putting Damian Pierce in the flex here.
I like it. Okay, I'm cool with that. Then you got Trevor Lawrence, Evan Ingram, Jalen Warren's on the team, Ezekiel Elliott's on the team, Lazard's on the team, Geno Smith.
I like this team a lot. Right, again, even though I'm not a two quarterback guy in a one quarterback starting league, I still like the balance on this team very much. And we've been talking about Thad's team a lot, and Thad did a great job not forcing himself to take the wide receivers and instead going running backs and still ending up getting DK Metcalf along with Kirk and Cooks. I like that, man. It could have been worse. That's for darn sure.
Next team, Tony Pollard, David Montgomery, starting running back, CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, Mark Andrews is the tight end. The flex would be Chris Godwin. And then you have Deshaun Watson as the quarterback, Elijah Moore, Treylon Burks, Anthony Richardson, Quentin Johnson, J-Mo, Jonathan Mango. I like this team. This is the team that's going to compete.
For me, man, I'm not sure about that. Again, when you look at what he did on the ground game, I mean, Pollard, Montgomery, I don't love Montgomery, CP. I don't love look, at the end of the day, he drafted Dowdle, Sean Tucker. I don't love his running backs, man. He's going to need some more depth there. And at least, and maybe you will disagree because someone disagreed with me regarding this. For me, it's easier to fulfill wide receivers and to replace wide receivers off the waiver wire than running backs. Someone I was talking.
Justin, if a running back go on the waiver wire, everybody's going after him.
Right.
Everybody. All 12 teams are going after a running back if the running back is on the waiver wire. All right. Draft is over, so we need to do this and so we can get out of here, Justin. That last team, Steph Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's put Debo in the flex. Herbert's the quarterback. Breece Hall, Rashard White, Khalil Herbert, Zach Charbonnet. A decent running back room, a solid team, strong wide receivers, great quarterback. But I worry about the running
back room. Worried a little bit about the tight end situation because of what I addressed before at Hopkins. But look, if Tannehill can make a rapport with Chigo Okonkwo, last year we saw that with the Titans offense featuring Okonkwo more. And maybe just because Hopkins is on the team now, that doesn't mean that Okonkwo is not going to get those targets too. So maybe that could still be the case there. The running back situation, I don't love, but dang, I love his wide receivers. And obviously, Justin Herbert's one of my favorite quarterbacks to draft.
Justin Fensterman, fantasy executive Corey Parson. This real-time fantasy sports 5K entry draft. Shout out and good luck to all the participants. Justin, we put in some overtime tonight, so let's make sure we.
I was just about to say, that's right. I love the way you're thinking, CP. This is PPR.
All right, so there you go right there. Got to give a special shout out, obviously, of always, to my main man, Engel hit the touchdown sounder. My boy Sean Engel for making sure that this draft went together smoothly. There you go. What a time that was for the homie Justin Fensterman, who I'll probably shoot a text to when this draft is over. And for all of you, thanks for watching. Don't forget real-time fantasy sports. Hop in that lobby. You know what I'm saying? Because every draft is not 5K. There's a price point specifically for you. For Fenstees, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Better Sports Network. Good night, everybody. We are out. Hey, Justin, go ahead and get it done.
You too, Corey. Whatever you get done.